Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Purple Insider. And we are just, I don't know how many hours, 36 hours away or so from our first full team practice out at TCO Performance Center, watching the Minnesota Vikings in training camp. And what a time it is to be alive. I wrote about this yesterday over at the newsletter, purpleinsider.football. Just about how this is such a long time in the making. Such a long time in the making. It goes back to me to 2019. You guys have been waiting for this since 2019 when they walked off the field in San Francisco after getting bludgeoned by the 49ers. And then they re signed Kirk Cousins. And we kind of knew that this direction wasn't going to get better than the team was in 2018, 2019. And then Kevin O'Connell takes over a team that had a lot of the old pieces and made the most of it. And then an Achilles injury sent them on this path because that set them up to draft JJ McCarthy in the first round. And yet you still had to wait, though. You still had to wait after the Achilles injury. You still had to wait through all of last year, which was a very odd year, I think, for Minnesota Vikings fans because you wanted the team to win the Super Bowl. But yet it seemed like a lot of the fan base, even as good as they were throughout the regular season, was still kind of looking at their watches. Is it McCarthy time yet? Like, okay, they got their 12th win, 13th win, 14th win. And it really wasn't until maybe the 13th, 14th win that people started to buy into the realistic possibility that they could be a contender. And then, of course, the minute that Sam Darnold got strip sacked and Jared Verse picked it up and ran it most of the field for a touchdown, since that moment, again, it's been waiting around for this, for JJ McCarthy taking over as QB1. And to me, training camp is the start of the season. It's official. He will be taking a real QB1 rep on Wednesday when we see him. And that's the rookie quarterback contract, but it's also the guy with the physical tools and it's the roster around him. If it was just the young quarterback, you could kind of go, okay, it's going to be a couple years or whatever, but they have taken advantage of that contract over a couple of years of it, going back to last year with Grenard and Van Ginkel and Cashman. And they put so much into this roster, so much money into this roster to build it this way around a very talented young quarterback. And now we finally get to see it. But first, there will be a press conference tomorrow for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell. I will be there. And Andrew Kramer from the Star Tribune and myself are going to react to that. So keep an eye out for that video. We'll have that out. Right after the press conference, we'll record and have the video out soon after that. And I'll be interested just to see what comes up. I mean, we've asked so many questions. There's so many questions going back to the owners' meetings and the combine and the different times that we saw him, Kevin O'Connell during mini camp and so forth. I guess maybe a little bit about Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's contract and how they view this is it a win now situation? Is it how do they see it? I don't see how it couldn't be a win now situation, but how do they talk about the timeline of this team? How do they talk about some of the questions with this team? And that'll be fascinating to find out and set the stage really for Wednesday when we actually get to see a real practice. And then it will be another couple of days after that. I want to say it's Friday is when they first put the pads on, and then it is real. And Six Shooter Nation, it's not all about JJ McCarthy. It absolutely is all about JJ McCarthy in this training camp, my friend. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stuff we'll cover. There's a lot of stuff we'll talk about, but it is all about JJ McCarthy with this training camp and this season of finding out what they have and can he really take them to where you have wanted to go for a very, very long time. So this is, I mean, this is you build an entire team around what your quarterback situation is. And all these players who are here that they spent so much money on are here because of JJ McCarthy and his contract. But is he ready? Is he really ready to take this team someplace that they haven't been in quite a long time? It is the most excited that I have seen Vikings fans in a really long time. Gosh, is it 2016 before Teddy Bridgewater got hurt might qualify for that? I wasn't quite here yet. And I arrived right after Teddy Bridgewater got hurt, actually the same day as when I moved here and started the job on the day that they traded for Sam Bradford. So that's kind of how long this will be. My ninth training camp, 10th season. How about that? Been here for a while now. But maybe 2018 with Kirk, but the vibes were weird at training camp. I still think that people thought that that was a Super Bowl caliber team, and it should have been. And then 2019 was so dramatic. 2020 was horrible because it was COVID and a shortened training camp. 2021 was miserable because it was the Kirk battles with vaccinations and all that sort of stuff. And 2022, I think, was pretty exciting, but still, I think people thought that there was a cap on this team. Last year, we started to see the signs of it. It was new, it was fresh, it was interesting. But this year, this is the year where everyone has waited to see what the first round quarterback can do and what a roster that's this strong. I have to say, it's the strongest roster since 2017. It should be fascinating. It should be really interesting. But before we get there, some of you guys ask about Noah Fant. I don't know, guys. I mean, if his team is releasing him right now, there's got to be something that's not great there, right? Uh, they drafted a guy, Gavin Bartholomew, who's actually put on the pup list today, physically unable to perform list. I was a little surprised to see that he did miss some of minicamp, but not a great start for Gavin Bartholomew to be injured, which leaves Ben Urasek, Bryson Nesbitt. Those guys are undrafted free agents, but they're going to get their chance right off the beginning for tight end 3. Nonetheless, we got a lot to get to here tonight. Monday with Maggie comes up later in the show, and I have 53 football players to name before camp, a tradition like none other to take a shot at picking the 53-man roster. So I'm going to go position by position, and I will have every position who I think will be there, and then the biggest question about the roster. And of course, I'll keep an eye on you guys in the comment section as well. Do I miss anything about Mankato? Certainly not the drive down there, but I do miss the atmosphere. There was a little bit of a feeling that it was like old school, like NFL filmsy, like da 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 da. You know, there was like you could just envision all the great Minnesota Vikings over the years stepping onto those Mankato fields, and the stands are just made of metal, and it's so hot, and fans are just lining the streets looking for autographs. It had this very old time football kind of feel. TCO Performance Center is not like that. TCO Performance Center is top of the line everything. It's high tech, it's fresh, and that's great. I mean, it's much better for the team. But, you know, I think what did they used to do when it rained? Did they practice in like a gym? I think they practiced in like a gym when it rained in Mankato. Well, here they got this incredible facility that's inside. If it rains like it did today, then they'll be just fine. So I do miss that kind of feeling of Mankato. But when I covered my one training camp there in 2017, I didn't get a hotel room down there because my wife and I were moving into our first house. And so I couldn't just stay down there the entire time. Every day of training camp, I drove from the Twin Cities all the way down to Mankato. And that made for a very, very long training camp. Um, so I don't miss that part of it, but it was a lot of fun to have that feeling. Anyway, let us get to the 53-man roster. And we will start off with the quarterback position, my friends. And here's what I got for the quarterback position for the 53. JJ McCarthy shockingly makes the roster. Sam Howell, and we'll see, but I think Sam Howell will end up being the backup. And I have Max Brosmer making the roster right now over Brett Rippon. And that is by far the biggest question. Can Brosmer unseat Brett Rippon for the QB3 position? I think it is realistic based on what I saw from minicamp that Brosmer is a intellectually mature player for someone who's coming out of college. He has a good enough arm, and I think he could be very good in the room for them. Clearly gels with Kevin O'Connell based on his comments, where O'Connell talked about how he saw Brosmer as one of the highest IQ players that has come out and how quickly he adapted to being in an NFL room. I think Brett Rippon has been around, and clearly O'Connell has liked him as well. But there might be a little more upside with Brosmer of someone you could develop into a full-time backup by next year. if he plays well. And there's going to be a lot of preseason reps to go around. I think that JJ McCarthy will play in preseason, but I don't think he's going to play in all the games. And I don't think he's going to play a ton in these games. Sam Howell will get first halves, and then second half, if Brosmer is looking the part in practice and behind the scenes, there's nothing new to find out about Brett Rippon. He's been in the league for some time. There is a lot to find out about Max Brosmer and whether his upside is being a full-time backup quarterback. So I think there's a decent chance that that happens. They could put Rippon on the practice squad. They could also put Max Brosmer on the practice squad. The only thing I will say, I wrote an article about Brosmer, talked to a lot of people about him. Greg Harbaugh Jr., his offensive coordinator for the Gophers, had great stories about Brosmer. I talked to Quincy Avery as well. And his maturity kept coming up over and over and over again. But another thing that I think might just give him a chance to put him ahead is that I think he can throw the ball. And that's something I know, like, oh, well, he could throw the ball, right? They've got him. Of course he can. But I mean, like an actual pro quarterback, and you don't see that all the time from undrafted free agents. So there actually is a possibility that if they cut Max Brosmer, another team could come pick him up because he does have the arm strength and he does have the football IQ to be potentially a backup quarterback in the league. So I'm going to go with Max Brosmer for right now, and then we'll see how it plays out. But if he has a good preseason, he could be QB3 on this team. The only thing that might put Rippon ahead is just that he's played in the league before. And you could say, well, you're never going to get to QB3 this year, but O'Connell might think twice about that after ending up with Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins a few years ago. All right, running backs on the roster. So I'm keeping 3 quarterbacks. I think that the Vikings will probably always do that going forward. Running backs, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, Ty Chandler, and CJ Ham. And my biggest question here is, will they look for more options than Ty Chandler? Does anybody else on the roster have a chance? Xavier Scott and Trey Stewart are the 2 other guys on the roster. Doesn't seem like they have a great chance to compete with Ty Chandler for an actual roster spot. The kick return part of it is big. Dylan says he doesn't think they'll keep 3 quarterbacks. Why wouldn't they if they thought that they were going to lose Max Brosmer potentially to another team picking him up? I don't know. How many have they? I'm trying to think how many they've kept in the past, if they've kept 3 quarterbacks or not. I feel like it makes sense for them under the current circumstances to do that. Unless they want to take that risk of losing Brosmer to some other team. I don't know. But anyway, running backs, Jones, Mason, Chandler, and Ham. And really, the only thing is the Chandler question is, will they go look and try to get somebody else at the running back position? Would it be in the middle of camp if they're not happy? Would it be at the end of camp during cutdown day if there's some veteran running back who gets cut? Is there someone who's still out there that is looking for a job that they might decide to go with if they don't like what they see from Ty Chandler? But the kick returning element is big because I think you not only want to have a kick returner who's extremely fast and nimble, but I think durable and physical matters with this kick return. This kick return is violent, man. Like, somebody breaks off a block and you run into him full speed, that can hurt. And if they don't trust maybe like a Silas Bolden, or if Rondale Moore isn't very good at it or someone like that, you don't want to be putting Isaiah Rodgers back there. It's possible they use him, but if he's going to be CB2, I don't think so. I don't think that you want to put a starting cornerback back at kick return, and that could keep Ty Chandler on this team. He could also maybe have last year be a wake-up call that, yeah, he had a nice little breakout 2023, but that doesn't mean anything, and he could take a step forward. But if he doesn't, they're probably looking outside. I still think that CJ Ham remains on this team. I get the question pretty often, like, hey, do you think CJ Ham would get cut? Though that someday they'll need that roster spot. Like, I get it, but he is really important to special teams and he is really versatile. They can line him up in different places. They can use him as a pass protector. I did a story 2 years ago about how Kevin O'Connell completely revamped CJ Ham's role on the team to make sure that he stayed on the team, which was to make him a pass protector. And they used him a little more in the run game last year. And Ham was really at his best. This is something I'm curious about. Ham was at his best when they ran outside zone stuff with Kevin Stefanski and Gary Kubiak. And I don't think he's been as good of a run blocker or as comfortable with what they've asked him to do under this run blocking scheme. But I do think that there are going to be more outside zone runs with Jordan Mason here because that was really his specialty with San Francisco. So there's your running backs. We'll see if somebody else shows up. That's kind of the big major question here. So we go on to wide receivers. Now this one is quite interesting to me because I decided to stick with 6 wide receivers, one of them being a special teams specialist. So that is Tim Jones. There's also Tavere Thomas, who's another special teamer that they brought in. Those two are kind of competing for one spot, I think. So I decided to go with Jones here, who was playing for Jacksonville last year. Rob, I think Ty Chandler in 2023 played well, but I don't think last year he played well at all. It was not the same guy last year. As far as his kick returning, that I could see though, his kick returning. And look, the potential is there for Ty Chandler and the explosiveness is there, but they have to be able to trust him. They have to be able to trust him. And last year they didn't, and he didn't have those explosive runs either. So anyway, receivers, I started in the hottest spot with receivers, which of course is the special teams expert in Tim Jones. But I am curious though, if Silas Bolden, who is more of a returner, if he can carve out a role as a returner and win a 6th spot, maybe over somebody like Tim Jones, who is more of a special teams specialist. And then the other spot that is fascinating, other than, of course, on my 53, Jefferson, Addison, Naylor, those are locked in. But I have Rondale Moore and Ty Felton. Are Rondale Moore and Ty Felton locked in? We have to see how Rondale Moore just looks in general physically before we can know if he's going to make the 53, because Moore missed all of last year and missed all of OTAs and minicamp as he was still recovering from an extremely serious leg injury. I mean, think about that, a year later and he was not ready to be out there. So that kind of tells you just how significant that injury really was for Rondale Moore. If the spark is there, if the acceleration is there, the playmaking, then he can make the roster. He could be wide receiver 4. He can get opportunities even more so when Jordan Addison, assuming, is suspended. He could be a returner, punts or kicks. Like there's a lot of potential for him, but we've got to see it first. And the number of times where that similar type of player has started out, in training camp and we kind of knew right away, oh, this is not really going to work, or the guy wasn't what he used to be. It's happened enough for me to have a particular amount of skepticism when it comes to this type of guy, the guy who signs for $2 million and you're kind of hoping the reclamation project works, but there's a lot of intrigue with Rondale Moore. So I've got him on the roster, and Ty Felton, 3rd round draft pick. He's going to be on the roster. Will he get to play? That we are going to find out. So Jones is the interesting one, because if they don't love Rondale Moore and they don't love Tim Jones as a special teamer, then what do you end up with? Or does Silas Bolden like fight his way onto the roster? But what do you end up with? Do you end up with Lucky Jackson? Do you end up with Thayer Thomas? Does someone else surprise us? I mean, a Robert Lewis or someone who's a guy from Auburn that, I don't know, Miles Price from Indiana. There have been plenty of times in the past where I don't know, some UDFA, okay, just a guy, probably you'll be practice squad. And then they surprise us. Adam Thielen, guys, I don't know if you know, but he went to Mankato from Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, and ended up making it. But even like a Chad Beebe or a BC Johnson or something like that, like it happens where every once in a while that player just will surprise you as an undrafted free agent. So the back end of this wide receiver group, I think there are 4 spots that are filled in, and then there's 1 or 2 that could be open on the 53-man roster. All right, let us move on to tight ends. Now, my assumption is that Gavin Bartholomew will get healthy. We'll see. He's on the PUP list. Chaz Chambliss, undrafted free agent outside linebacker, also on the PUP list today, by the way. So I've got, because we don't know that injury update, we're going to get it from Kevin O'Connell. But for right now, TJ Hawkinson, Josh Oliver, Gavin Bartholomew. The one to watch, I think, is Ben Urasek from Georgia. He's got pretty good hands, caught everything in minicamp. But Bryson Nesbitt's a little bit more of a downfield guy, so we'll see on that. Also, Giovanni Ricci used to play for the Panthers. They picked him up as a veteran. Again, that's a wide open race for tight end 3. I don't know. So right now, I've got just Hawkinson, Oliver in the 6th round draft pick. And then the biggest question is, will an undrafted free agent tight end surprise us? And the other thing could be also, hey, is there a Johnny Munt that could end up here? It could even be Johnny Munt if the Jacksonville Jaguars cut him. Maybe Kevin O'Connell's favorite player ever, Johnny Munt, ends up back as a Minnesota Viking. That's one where if Bartholomew is not healthy, then it's probably a guy that they go out and get who is a veteran that ends up getting cut at, or whatever, or a team tries to sneak him onto the practice squad. The Noah Fant thing, I don't know. When a team, we have to common sense this thing a little, right? With Noah Fant, when a team cuts him at this stage in the game, there's got to be something wrong. How often do you ever see a player get cut at this point? And the Broncos didn't like him. The Seahawks didn't like him. I don't know. Yeah, I saw that Pete Bursich did a video on Ben Urasek, and I guess he sees, same kind of thing. Like, got some good hands. He's a physical kind of player. So, but I'm not into the Noah Fant idea. Not when, and I look at Seattle as a team that doesn't do crazy stuff. If they release a guy right at the end before training camp, something went wrong there. Something was weird there. So you got your 3 tight ends. We'll see who ends up being tight end 3. Now the offensive line, I think, is pretty well set. My biggest question is, can any undrafted free agent like a Logan Brown or Joe Huber, can those guys step up and maybe steal a job or force their way onto the team? And will they be fully convinced? And some of you have asked about Michael Juergens. Will they be fully convinced that he's good to be the center if Ryan Kelly gets injured? Because otherwise, they might have to look elsewhere if they are not convinced. Is there a limit of players you could put on the PUP list? Not that I know of. I think if you end up with that many players that you need to put that you need to be pushing a limit, could be a problem. Maybe there is. I don't know. I've never looked into the PUP rules, but maybe if you can find them and see. I've never heard of a team having so many players on the PUP list that they needed to meet a limit. So anyway, with the offensive line, Darisaw, Donovan Jackson, Kelly, Will Fries, Brian O'Neill, obviously. And the backups, Walter Rouse, Justin School, Blake Brandel, and Michael Juergens. I personally think this is a pretty good backup offensive line because you have a guy who's been in the league for a few years in Justin School. He's actually played. Walter Rouse, I thought, showed very well during training camp last year and has potential to even, I would say, to even start at left tackle if Darisaw can't start in week 1, that there's nothing that counts Walter Rouse out from winning that job. He also might cross train a little bit at guard and tackle during this training camp. We'll see. I don't know how high the ceiling is on Rouse, but I mean, he last year I thought showed athleticism that was pretty good. He's a high intelligence player, but he can anchor really, really well against pass rushers. So I'm at least intrigued on whether he could get some of those first team reps. I assume it will be Justin School to start. And I also think Blake Brandel is a very good swing guard. I don't think that they're going to bring back Dalton Reisner, but you never know. If someone gets banged up, I mean, if Brandel or if Will Fries, Will Fries didn't participate in minicamp, and it seems like there was an insinuation from Kevin O'Connell that he would be good to go in training camp. He's not on the PUP list, so we'll see. With Will Fries, I assume he's going to be good to go. But if he's not and there's a problem, then I guess you do call Dalton Reisner, because for some reason nobody else did. I just don't really get it. I never heard anything that he was a problem. And the run blocking, okay, I know it's not that great, but it might just be that Reisner continually tries to get more money than he's actually worth and ends up still waiting around during training camp. But as a backup, Dalton Reisner is a good one. So I think that's pretty much set on the offensive line. If everybody stays healthy, we'll see on that. And if they don't, then you could have some other guys sneak in to that conversation. So we'll see on that. But as far as the 9 offensive linemen, I think that they're pretty much good there. And maybe someone like Logan Brown can step up. But we'll see. We'll see on Michael Jurgens. We'll see. If Brown makes it and Kwesi loves Jurgens and Rouse, is Brandel out? I don't think Brandel can be out because he's a guard who played an entire 17 game season in the playoffs last year. Look around the NFL, find how many offensive linemen are as good as Blake Brandel was last year. I know he wasn't phenomenal, but for at least a half a season, which is what you're looking for a backup. If a guy can come in and play half a season, and he was actually pretty decent alongside Christian Darrisaw, like that's a good guard. It's just hard to see any of these guys getting beaten out, but that's why they play the practices because you never know who's going to emerge. So we'll keep our eyes on that. I don't think there's a lot of controversy there, though, on the offensive line. As far as defensive line goes, here's my guys for the D line. I've got Jonathan Allen, Harrison Phillips, Javon Hargrave, Jalen Redmond, Levi Drake Rodriguez, and Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. And the guy that I left out here, and this was one of those where, as I'm doing the 53, that the way I do it, my 53 man process, I got a process. That's how long I've been doing this, guys. I got a process for my 53 man roster projections. Is I just write down off the top of my head every single player that I think is going to be on the team. And then I go back and count it up and look at the depth chart again to make sure I didn't miss anybody and so forth. And when I wrote it down originally, I had one more defensive lineman, which was Taki Taimani. And then as I was going through the rest of the 53, I just couldn't fit another defensive lineman onto the roster. So I ended up with Ingram Dawkins and Rodriguez and Redmond being the guys who made it. It is, of course, possible that Taimani makes it as well because they don't really have a true nose tackle run stuffer, that kind of guy, like a fire hydrant type of guy. And NBA Summer League says that he'll be the backup nose tackle. It's either Levi Drake or Redmond. That very well could be. But I also think that this team doesn't have a true nose tackle. They don't play a true nose tackle. What they try to do, and I was told this by Durante Jones, because I was talking to Durante Jones about Theo Jackson, and he was telling me that Theo Jackson last year was really a Josh Metellus clone. Like they try to have a player who's a backup who's very similar to the starter. So they wanted Theo Jackson as a multifaceted type of player, high IQ, to kind of be like the backup version of Josh Metellus, which is probably why they used Bobby McCain a little bit in that game against Seattle and not just Theo Jackson, because McCain was probably the backup for that position for Cam Bynum at the start. And then Theo Jackson got in the game a little bit more later. And I think that they want Levi Drake Rodriguez to be a Harrison Phillips clone, where he's not exactly 340 pounds, but Taimani isn't either, by the way. He goes at 309, I think. But they want him to have body moving potential where it's not just stuff gaps. It's also like quickness that goes into it as well, and strength that goes into it as well. And he kind of has a similar body type, a little bit shorter, I think, but kind of Harrison Phillips like. And I don't think that Levi Drake Rodriguez is ever going to be this lightning pass rushing type. I think he's more of a pusher. And yeah, Matt, bringing up that you could put Taimani on the practice squad. Yeah, I totally agree. And this is what usually happens is they cut down to the 53 and we're like, oh no, what's going to happen to that guy? And he's just on the team anyway. That was like Bo Richter last year. He had a great preseason. Everybody loved him. I can't believe they cut him. And then he was on the active roster a few weeks later. In this case, though, a fifth round pick, if Ingram Dawkins shows anything, I think he's on the team. And Jalen Redmond, I'm going to stick with this one. I'm going to stick with this take that I think Redmond ends up being the guy out of this group that plays the most and ends up taking the big step. But really, if it's a battle for two spots with three guys, Levi Drake Rodriguez, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, and Taki Taimani, could be pretty interesting. And Redmond is not locked into the roster 100% either. So that's a real battle. And one more thing on this, I actually wasn't really sure whether to put Tyrion Ingram Dawkins with the D line or with the outside linebackers, because in minicamp, it looked to me like he was playing a little more D line, but he could also be that guy. He was playing outside as an edge rusher during college and had some success there. he could also be considered an outside linebacker, which of course is our next group. Let me fix that real quick. That is our next group here is the outside linebackers. And with this unit, this is where I've probably talked about the most for my interest in. Let me move this. No, wait. It's not supposed to be like that. Why am I small? Oh, it's supposed to be like this. There we go. We got it right. Okay. Um, I've probably talked the most about just the backups here. We know Van Ginkel, we know Jonathan Grenard, we know that Dallas Turner, those guys are going to be here. And that's the list. Van Ginkel, Grenard, Turner. But I've got Bo Richter and Gabe Murphy as being the only other two outside linebackers that make it. This could also be a position where they go outside the building. It will depend on the other outside linebackers. But now I actually wonder if Tyrion Ingram Dawkins ends up at that position because they just don't have a lot of actual bodies. And that's my biggest question is there anybody else that can make things interesting? And I'm just going to pull up the Vikings roster here because am I missing somebody that is an outside linebacker on this team? So they have Ingram Dawkins listed as a D lineman, by the way, if you're curious, but Gabe Murphy, Bo Richter, Dallas Turner, Van Ginkel, I mean, that's it. And Tyler Batty from BYU. Those are the only other guys. So I guess, can Tyler Batty make things interesting? Can Gabe Murphy make things interesting? Is there a bunch of undrafted free agents as the guys who are fighting for depth position at the outside linebacker spot? I guess another thing outside of, Tyler Batty, the undrafted free agent for BYU, who is, let's call him on the experienced side. I knew I was leaving somebody out, but aside from him, I mean, there's not a lot of people. So do they go out and find somebody else, or something that came to mind for me? And maybe, Dylan mentions Ingram Dawkins as being that guy, but maybe there's like an Eric Wilson type of role for that, where he is, I mean, he's undersized for being an outside linebacker as a depth player, but that might be something that could happen in a pinch. And maybe he'll take some reps there as an outside linebacker. But aside from that, I mean, this is a very light group. So if anybody gets hurt, then you're talking about an undrafted free agent from last year stepping in to be a rotational player. Whereas last year they had the Jihad Ward, and maybe they see Ingram Dawkins as being the Jihad Ward. Some of you have made that comparison. It's just interesting to me that there's not another veteran here unless there's somebody that they think they can go find. So the biggest question being just can somebody make that unit interesting? All right, let's take a look at the linebackers here. I've got them keeping 5. Some of you have mentioned in the comments that Brian Asamoah could be the odd man out. I think that's possible, but I also think that when you look at the special teams snaps last year, Asamoah took a lot of them, and Kobe King is a rookie. We don't know how he's going to play on special teams. He did a little bit in college, but we don't know how he's going to play in special teams. Eric Wilson is a special teams monster that could make a difference, but last year they had also Kamu Grugier-Hill, who was a special teams ace, not so much a great fill-in player, but a special teams ace. And they also kept Brian Asamoah as well. I think that when you're making that roster, you might have it come down to Asamoah versus Kobe King, and you might go with Kobe King because you like the fact that he's young and has a chance to develop and could be a run stuffer and bring you something on defense. But I do think that Asamoah has a decent chance to stick around just because of the fact that he plays special teams. As far as though, I mean, all the years covering the team, got a guy getting frozen out. Asamoah has been one of the most frozen out players where they have a defensive coordinator who finds great ways to get people on the field and rotates a good amount and looks for different roles and strengths. And Asamoah just could not force his way onto the field no matter what, which was kind of crazy that he wasn't even used at all. But if you look at the special team snaps, I could pull this up. And this was my justification, was really the special team snaps for Asamoah. I'll see if I can find it here. It would be a lot to try to replace with a rookie if you were looking to try to, yeah. I mean, so he had last year by PFF a 77.3 grade on special teams, which is very good, and played 342 special team snaps. That's a lot. That's a lot to try to replace. So that's why I had him on the roster. It is altogether possible that they move on if they feel like he's just taking up a special team spot only. I'll add one more thing to that about that position is with the kickoff, there is an expectation there's going to be a lot more kickoffs. And if there's a lot more kickoffs, I would not want someone like Ivan Pace Jr. out there chasing people down all day long. I would be willing to keep one extra linebacker to make tackles on special teams who's not going to be into the game. All right, let's move on to the cornerback position. Here's my 53-man corners. I have Byron Murphy Jr., Mekhi Blackman, Isaiah Rodgers, Dwight McGlothern, and Jeff Okudah. And as far as the rest of the corners, the biggest question is, can Jeff Okudah hold them off? Can he show enough during training camp to carve out a role for himself as a backup? It would be pretty surprising if he beat out Mekhi Blackman for as much as they liked him last year, or Isaiah Rodgers for as much as Brian Flores has apparently liked Isaiah Rodgers for years, going back to the Boston connection with UMass and so forth. But I think he would have to be spectacular in training camp to earn a spot over someone like Blackman or Rodgers. Can he beat out McGlothern for even like CB4? That we're going to see as well. And then there's a couple of guys who are just sort of interesting. And the one who I will have my eye on the most at the cornerback position is Zamiah Vaughn from Utah. He came out in minicamp and the guy's got crazy length and he's really got impressive hops, and he just made plays. He just went after the football. He got pass breakups. And when you see him jump up in the air, he looks like an NBA player. And then when he has the length, you go, okay, is he kind of this year's McGlothern, where it's a guy that you just didn't think of at all when they signed him? And then, whoa, okay, this guy can play. That might be the case. And the other one is Ambry Thomas, who played for San Francisco in 2023, was a part of that very, very good defense. Didn't play great, but does have that experience. Did not hit the field last year. It was banged up. And I think he was on the practice squad for the Vikings last year. And so now he's here. So it's kind of Okudah versus Zamiah Vaughn versus Ambry Thomas. And then, there's a handful of other undrafted free agents who are in this mix as well. Would be surprised if anyone really got into it, but you never exactly know. I think it's actually Jeff Okudah versus himself. Rob, I think you're way off on that. I think you're way off. But I think they like Mekhi Blackman a ton. I think they were ready to start Mekhi Blackman last year. I think they really, really like him. I think he would have to get injured again, I think, not to be in the mix. There's a very clear line of demarcation on this team at the cornerback position. The starters are Murphy, Blackman, and Rodgers. And then the rest of the guys are fighting for maybe two spots. McGlothern, Okudah, Thomas, Vaughn, to me, are fighting for two spots. And that will be interesting. I do think that Okudah has a chance to carve out a spot. I mean, Anthony mentions he's good versus the run. And I think that that's true. But corners don't play because they're good against the run. Like, they've really got to trust him one-on-one with guys where he's not been good historically. They have to trust him in those situations where he's got to play in a zone and he's got to read multiple route combinations and communicate and be really part of the unit. So there's a lot to prove in training camp at this cornerback position for a lot of guys. This is one of the most interesting battles that exists on the roster. All right, let's go to safety. I have no questions at the moment. I have no questions at all. I think that we've got it pretty well locked down. And what I mean is no 53-man questions. I have real questions about this group, but Harrison Smith, Theo Jackson, Josh Metellus, Jay Ward, and there you go. Jeff Okudah in the slot doesn't make a lot of sense because really the shiftiness is super important with the slot. And he's huge. And I think maybe part of the issue with his career is that he doesn't have that quick twitchiness. He uses his strength more, which might work as a zone corner if he's good enough at understanding the defense to then collapse on guys and make tackles and maybe make a break on a play or something. But he's had a lot of the issues are, I think, the when a guy has a two-way go against him, because what the league is trying to do is take guys like Okuda completely out of it. Hey, this is a shutdown physical corner on the outside. Well, what if I take my receivers and I put them in bunch formations on both sides, or, well, different splits on both sides, or a bunch formation over here, and we have all these different releases that you can't get up in somebody's face, right? So, I mean, I guess, yeah, the one question could be if they signed someone else, if there was an injury or something, or if they didn't like how it was going, who gets on the field if Josh Metellus is holding out? That could be a possibility as well. But this group is Harrison Smith, Theo Jackson, Josh Metellus, Jay Ward, and then there is one other guy at the safety spot that might be a practice squad potential, and that is Michelle Powell, who played at Miami, 24-year-old rookie, former five-star guy, but the safety position is weird that way. I never want to count anybody out, as you guys know, over the years, but it's hard to see this being anything else other than Smith, Jackson, Metellus, and Jay Ward. So I literally had no questions about this group. And the specialists, just so I could use a picture of the long snapper, Andrew DePaula, Ryan Wright, and Will Reichard. And my only question is there actually a punting competition with Ryan Wright and Oscar Chapman? At this moment, I am saying there is not. I don't believe at this moment that there is a punting competition, because they can keep Oscar Chapman as part of the international exception rule and have 91 players on the 90-man roster, or, whatever. So I know, son of a beavers. It is very disappointing to hear that there might not be an actual punt competition. I just don't think so. I think that Ryan Wright has this job, and Oscar Chapman is brought in because he's an interesting guy to them. And if Wright really, really struggles, then we're going to probably see them go outside of the building like they did with Jordan Berry. And, actually, Jordan Berry came in for Matt Weil. Was that right? How that went? I forget exactly how that went. I think Matt Weil was the guy, and then they brought in Jordan Berry. Once upon a time, it was Ryan Quigley, but they brought in Britton Colquitt after that. So it's happened a number of times where another punter is picked up kind of late in the game. But we'll see. We'll see. If there's a punt competition, nobody will be more excited than this guy to watch and track every punt. So there you go. Your 53-man roster projection. Everything is subject to change. NBA Summer League says the Metellus contract thing seems weird, like there's no progress. I guess on that, what I would remind you of is that the Vikings have not negotiated through the media in recent years. Think about Justin Jefferson. Like, how much did you hear from the Vikings during the Jefferson negotiation? Not a lot. It was, they went out of their way to not make a lot of public statements other than just to say, hey, we want to get this done. We love Justin Jefferson, period. That was it. You didn't hear like, oh, the team thinks that Jefferson is acting this way. Or you didn't hear from Jefferson's camp, oh, Justin feels wronged or disrespected, or there was nothing. And I think with Josh Metellus, it's the same thing, where he came out in minicamp when we spoke to him, and he said, I want to keep these conversations private, and we're just going to keep it between us. And I think Drew Rosenhaus is his representative. We're going to keep it in-house, and we'll see what happens. So they've stuck to that, and they haven't put out a whole lot of stuff, which is why we haven't heard anything. There have been contracts that they've signed where we didn't hear anything, and then it just happened. What was the recent one? Josh Oliver. We didn't hear any buzz. I didn't have Josh Oliver on my radar as a guy that was going to sign a pre-camp contract extension, especially a lucrative and long contract extension for him. What was it? A couple more years, two or three more years for Josh. I just didn't have that like on my bingo board, and they did it. There was a Brian O'Neill extension that happened a couple of years ago that came out of nowhere. So it does happen where it's under wraps, and then all of a sudden when it's done, it's done. Where I can't quite make it fit exactly is, just when it comes to Metellus, who's the comp? Who's the guy that in the negotiations, his side or their side, is saying, hey, he's just like this guy, and this guy got X number of dollars because he's so much different than most other players at the safety position in the league. It's even hard to look at a PFF grade, for example, because Metellus is playing so much of a linebacker position that he's going to get, good run grades. He's going to make a lot of tackles. The D line makes space. He shoots through. He makes tackles. He, causes fumbles and stuff like that. But when it comes to coverage, he's actually playing a lot of linebackery type coverages where he's getting targeted technically a lot, but they're not getting a lot of yards against him, which is so different than most corner or most safeties. Most safeties are playing in the parking lot way back, and if they get targeted, it's on some sort of deep shot. And that's just different from Josh Metellus. So how do you work through finding guys that are comparable? Let me pull this up here. I'm just kind of curious because I've had trouble finding a guy with the different type of usage as Josh Metellus. I wonder how many safeties played in the box or at nickel as much as him. Actually, no one. No one played in the box more than Josh Metellus at the safety position last year. Zero. There were a couple guys who were close. Justin Reed was actually pretty close, and he got a contract this offseason. And I've mentioned Trayvon Moehrig before. Buda Baker is probably the comp that his agent would want to use, but I think is maybe a little rich. But Justin Reed makes a lot of sense. I'll have to look up what Justin Reed got. And Metellus also had the sixth most snaps in the nickel corner position. So that's what makes it hard. Like other guys like him, Kyle Hamilton, Brian Branch, that's what makes it difficult is that he played so much in kind of a linebackery type position that are you actually looking at linebacker contracts as well? Let me see what Justin Reed got here. Because I think he signed a contract with somebody, didn't he, this offseason? Let's see. Justin Reed signed with the Saints at $10.5 million per year. So that's probably what the team is looking at. And it's not too much different in terms of the age. Moehrig got more money than Reed. Reed has been a key part of Kansas City. Let's see. So, yeah, he signed a 3-year deal worth $31.5 million. So I think that what the Vikings are probably thinking is somewhere in that ballpark is probably right for Josh Metellus. But if you're Josh Metellus, you're thinking somewhere in the Trayvon Moehrig 15 to 17 range is right. And maybe they'll settle somewhere in the middle because I think that Metellus is a special and unique type of player. I agree, Dusty, that there have been other players who have tried to do this and it has not worked out. The way Metellus can play multiple spots, but also play them well. It's not just that he's lining up there. It's also that he's succeeding. Rob, where would I rank the top 7 or the front 7 of the Vikings defense? I mean, right now, if everybody's healthy and is playing at mostly the version of themselves, Hargrave, let's say he's playing at 80% of 2 years ago. Jonathan Allen is playing at 80% of 2 years ago. I think you got to put it in like the top 7, top 6 defensive lines, front sevens. Cause you got to include those outside linebackers. I mean, Philadelphia is still really, really good. Tampa Bay is really good. Pittsburgh's really good. Maybe there's a list of them of where they're ranked by other people, but I right off the top of my head, I would have to say in the top 5 or 7. The Rams, as we know, are pretty good on the defensive line. Dylan suggesting 3 years, $35 million with 25 guaranteed. I mean, I think that's somewhere in that ballpark is pretty fair. Yeah. But I could see the gap being significant. I could see that his representation trying to say, like, how many guys are like this in the league? And a lot of them are considered stars because now let me pull it back up. Look, I'm not saying he's Kyle Hamilton exactly, but if you're his representation, aren't you going into this kind of talking about how he plays like Kyle Hamilton? I mean, that's if I was representing him, I would. Now, Hamilton is better, is one of the top players in the entire league, I think. But if we talk about box safeties, Metellus last year ranked pretty well among them. I mean, he actually graded about the same as Trayvon Moehrig, who got that $15-ish million contract. Jeremy Chin is another one who plays a lot up there. Grant Delpit from Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, Xavier McKinney's probably on a different level there. He plays a lot. That's what I mean. It's just not that easy to figure that one out. I didn't get too many responses from you guys on the 53. Did you love them? Did you hate it? The 53? Were there debatable positions? James says, I think you hit it well. The few things I would do is cut, Reisner is not on the roster right now, but Rippin, I guess you mean Rippin, keep the young guns. Maybe we talked about Reisner so much, it sounded like he's on the roster. He has been. As the backups, we should err on the side of potential upside. The go for QB just might be QB2. I mean, Brosmer, let's not push him a little like too much for Brosmer to be QB2. Brosmer is QB3, I think, at best, unless he just destroys training camp. He's incredible in the preseason. And even then, he's an undrafted free agent, rookie. I don't think you want that guy one step away. That's why you have Sam Howell, that you would much prefer Sam Howell to be your guy there. But, you know, when you talk about the potential upside, this is tough because for years, it has been, well, yeah, they're competitively rebuilding, keep any young player with any sort of upside. And I agree with that. With the expansion of the practice squad, though, you could kind of just keep anybody you want that has potential with the expansion of the practice squad. When it used to be 10, there were a lot of really tough decisions when there used to be 10. But now, what is it, 17? You can kind of keep anybody you like. If you don't make your team's practice squad, then it went pretty tough for you. And as far as the upside, I think you want to keep a lot of guys who are proven on this roster, proven backups. Like, don't make a mistake on a win now roster by getting rid of somebody who has played in the league before and has proven themselves just because you like a younger guy. And like everybody falls in love with all the young guys because we haven't seen the mistakes yet. We haven't seen the issues yet. And that happens to NFL people as well. I think it happened in 2018 when the Vikings went to the younger guys and they cut Terrence Newman and B-Rob, and it was not the same. Let's see. Dusty says, think the 53 is pretty chalk. We're talking fringe spots, which are interesting, but barring a huge surprise cut, there's not much in the way of heavy intrigue for roster battles. I agree with that mostly. But the one position that I really think it could matter in the position battles is wide receiver. That wide receiver 4, 5, possibly 6. That's where it could get really interesting if Rondale Moore does not live up to what we think Rondale Moore could be. Because you go through this outside of Rondale Moore, so Ty Felton will be on the team. And there's certainly a chance that Felton is really good right away and he's wide receiver 4 and off you go. Very possible. There certainly have been worse wide receiver 4s than a third round pick who runs sub 4.4, right? I think he's going to need development. He just hasn't played a ton of college football. He was on the bench for Maryland for a few years as a rotational player, even just a little, and then took off last year. But that's not a ton of football, not a ton of development. And now just joining the pro level, it might be a little bit difficult if he's got to slide into, because everything has to be thought of through the lens of Jordan Addison. Like if he's out 3 games, well, somebody's sliding up a spot. If Rondale Moore is good and he slides up into wide receiver 3, well, that's great. I mean, that guy's played in the league before. He's a little more of a complete wide receiver than I think he started out his career for sure, but I think he did develop with Arizona. Okay, well, he can handle that for a couple weeks. But if he's not okay, if he's not sharp anymore or explosive anymore, then all of a sudden you're kind of going, all right, well, Felton, I hope you're ready. Or are you looking at someone like a Lucky Jackson who has been developing for years? The other guy I didn't mention is Jashawn Jones, who kind of always comes up in these conversations, that had a good camp last year, but no actual experience. Like Lucky Jackson is 28 and has been around, has been in the UFL or XFL or whatever version he was in, USFL. So he's actually played some pro, but it gets liked on experience after that wide receiver 3. So that one is one that could have a significant impact, I think, on the actual roster. NBA Summer League, if Addison is out 3 games, I've got Thielen. We'll see. We'll see. I know everybody always wants back the guy who used to play here, and Thielen was pretty good last year for Carolina. But if I'm Carolina, I don't see why they would give him up because you have Leggett, who's inexperienced, you have McMillan, who's inexperienced, a couple other guys who have been around a little bit, right? But they traded away their top pick from a few years ago to Dallas for kind of nothing. Or actually, I think they did pretty well in that trade, but they still like they got rid of that guy. I forget even his name. Someone can throw it in the chat. But I think they need Thielen to be wide receiver 3. They need some experience at that position. So I know everybody, I've seen that come up. He was thrown with McCarthy. The local news, I forget who had that, but the local news had some B-roll of those two throwing to each other, or McCarthy throwing to Thielen. It was like, oh, is he coming? I mean, if you're the Vikings, sure, yeah, but I think Carolina wants him. Chloe says they picked up Mullins after a preseason game. They could do the same again if through camp they're worried about their depth for corners or quarterback. Yeah, I mean, in corner last year, they picked up Stephon Gilmore late in the game, and he's still a free agent. So if it doesn't go well, and if Mekhi Blackman struggles or they don't like what they see from Isaiah Rodgers, they could go ask Stephon Gilmore to come back or look for somebody else. There was a report that I think the Dolphins are going after Rasul Douglas, but he's still out there as of right now. I'm sure they want to see it first. And the same thing goes for Sam Howell. What happened between minicamp and training camp is big for Sam Howell. If he comes into training camp and he's ready to go, like all guns ablazing, and he's ready and he's running the offense, and that's great. But if there's frustration like there was with Sean Mannion and Kellen Mond that year in 2022, I think Kevin O'Connell has shown and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has shown that they will go and get somebody else. That exists for any position. That's how Dalton Reisner ended up here, is twice, is that they just weren't super pleased. Let's see. Matt says, I think a UDFA corner or wide receiver makes the roster. I think TB3 is going to be picked up from another roster cut down. TB3. Who is TB3? Oh, tight end 3. Okay. That's a typo. Gotcha. I was like, tailback 3? Although it could be. Oh, RB3. Okay. You corrected RB3. No, it could be tailback 3, I guess. RB3 could be picked up from another roster. Yep. That's true. It's really, there's a bunch of battles here that are just the guy against himself. Sam Howell against himself, Ty Chandler against himself. You can have the job. Rondale Moore against himself. You can have the job if you're ready to go. But if you're not, they're going to go get someone else. Now, Keenan Allen, son of a Beavers, wants Keenan Allen. I couldn't say no if Jordan Addison was suspended for 3 games and they didn't love what they saw from Rondale Moore. Keenan Allen makes sense. It might even make sense with Rondale Moore because he is Keenan Allen still good enough to catch the football, kind of like Anquan Bolden, that it wasn't ever speed that was the reason he was good. It was route running, it was hands and toughness, things like that. Maybe, but if you're Keenan Allen, do you want somewhere where you could catch the ball, or are you okay with just joining a team that's really good, but you got to be wide receiver 4? That might be down to it. Yep, Purple Purgatory. I did see the deep dive on Ben Urasek from Bursich. I did see that. That's interesting. Yeah. Like, now I will say, like, none of us know what it's going to look like when we get out there, but Urasek caught my eye as well in minicamp. He made a lot of catches underneath and looked like he had strong hands and was kind of a bigger guy. He kind of actually looked a little like Johnny Munt out there. So I could see that. I could see him being a guy, but we all kind of do this, and you guys do it and we do it. It's part of the fun of camp. Actually, it's what I'm writing about tomorrow for the newsletter, purpleinsider.football. Sign up today. I'm going to be doing a camp journal every day where it's everything that I hear and see that is interesting to me. I'm going to be writing purpleinsider.football, but I'm going to write about kind of the magic of Mr. Mankato and why we love it so much, because we all get to kind of pick a guy. And I guess, Ben Urasek's your guy. Some people love Silas Bold. Like, we'll see. You just never really know with those. And that's the magic of training camp, I think. Let's see. Aaron Still surprised that they didn't draft a running back or bring in more UDFA running backs. I would bet that they might pick up a guy on cutdowns. I thought that they would too. I suppose that if they had more draft capital, they probably would have. But I am surprised that there isn't just a veteran guy who's competing. Maybe the issue with that is that if you're a veteran, you might be waiting for somebody to get hurt and then you can jump on. Where if you come in and you end up with, Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones in front of you, you don't have much of a chance to actually play. And if you're a veteran, you're looking for someplace you can actually play. That could be it. Anthony says, any idea that they bring back Gilmore or just letting him rest up? Well, if you're Stephon Gilmore and last year you waited until the end of training camp to play and then you played pretty well, I mean, why would you come back and do training camp again? I'm sure that he's going to wait and see and then decide toward the end of the summer if he actually wants to play again. But that will depend for the Vikings where they stand with the cornerback position. I thought Keenan Allen was good for the Bears last year. It's just that he didn't have a quarterback who continued to find him. Dylan, yeah, like Chandler is fine as an RB3 if they wanted to play him or if they were comfortable with playing him. The fact that they became so uncomfortable with playing him that they had to go out and get Cam Akers and then we basically never saw him again, that makes you think that they could still look for an upgrade. But somebody was making the point earlier. I mean, when we're talking about RB3s and tight end threes, you're right that there's probably not 47 people who are better than Ty Chandler, but you might be looking for a veteran who could come in. If Aaron Jones was out for 5 weeks or something, and you got to put the whole load on Jordan Mason and you don't trust Ty Chandler, and then you got CJ Ham, you feel pretty restricted there. You feel like you're putting a heavy load on one guy. If Mason got hurt, you're right back to where you were last year when it was kind of Aaron Jones and Aaron Jones only. That's like, I know when we're getting that deep into the weeds with RB3, but look, I mean, they're in a position where they're always looking to try to get the best possible roster they can. So if they don't trust one guy in pass protection and they don't think he's a great kick returner, like maybe there's somebody who is, and they're always going to look for one step up. I am aware, TLS, that that Walter Rouse is the grandson of Vic Rouse because I wrote an article about it and I sat down with Walter Rouse last year. Google that, Purple Insider .football Walter Rouse. You'll find it. Vic Rouse scored the game-winning basket in the 63 NCAA championship for Loyola, and that team was famous for having 4 black starters, and they kind of made history there. So it is worth looking up. Yeah, hopefully it comes up in a Google search, my article on it. Okay, well, let's see. Yeah, I think, Brad, you might have a point here that Batty and Vaughn, the 2 undrafted free agents, like those could be the guys that we end up talking about halfway through training camp. Samaya Vaughn and Tyler Batty. Batty has a chance to make it. He's going to be in the mix with Gabe Murphy, who was very productive in college, and Bo Richter, who's a great athlete, made a strong first impression. Those are definitely the names to watch for undrafted free agent. So anyway, all right. Well, I think that's a good look at the 53 man. Great to have a crowd here tonight. I could tell by the crowd that you guys are pumped up for training camp. So every Monday night we do, for those who are new watching the show, intern Maggie Robinson joins the show around this time, and we do Mondays with Maggie, and she goes through the latest of things on her mind, articles that she saw, or things to break down throughout the league. So if Maggie is good to go, there we can bring her into the show. I'm seeing black now. Maggie, are you there?
Oh no, I'm here.
Where did your video
Guys, this camera is going to be the end of me. My God.
What happened?
Okay.
Do you need a minute?
Pause. I'll be back.
Okay. Maggie is alive, but for some reason the camera is not alive. So I'm going to take her out for a second. Last week, the camera mysteriously zoomed in and made her head enormous. No, I saw that Bursich is doing the eye in the sky, And yeah, it's good. I mean, the film breakdown is good. It's just one of those things where it's like anytime it's an undrafted free agent, I always kind of go, "Hey, let's wait and see," because we all get excited about undrafted free agents and then a handful of them ever actually make it, and then we'll see from there. Okay. Camera does not seem to be working yet for Maggie. Yeah, with this Clay behavior. Yes, our previous intern Clay always seemed to have something going on behind the scenes. All right, well, we could get in a few more comments before Maggie gets her camera working. And Maggie, maybe if that one's not working, maybe just go with the webcam from your computer. I think that'll probably work. Dusty says that's how Mason got hurt last year, is that the Niners overloaded him. So that's how delicate things can be, right? When it comes to a roster and why depth can be so important is if Aaron Jones gets hurt, Jordan Mason gets overloaded, then all of a sudden the production isn't the same or he gets banged up. And then you're talking about who's the RB3. If you go around the league, yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of great RB3s that people can't wait to play. But at the same time, with Ty Chandler, we've seen a lot of him. And I think we have a sense for what he is in this league, which is he can play because he's explosive and he could be exciting and he can scoot and he can run and he's good with the football in his hands. But the details matter. Like where you run matters. Can you block matter? I mean, you can't just put him in and have a run play every time or have him go out for a pass every time. This is an offense that asks the running back to block, and his blocking numbers are as pretty much as poor as I can remember. This is an interesting one. Son of a Beaver says would love Jamal Williams on this team. We'll see about Jamal Williams. I think I will see if he's even going to play this year with Jamal. I know he's a free agent still. He's very close with Aaron Jones. Okay. Do we have? We do not. We have an M and an R. Can you hear me still, Maggie? Now I can't even hear Maggie. Okay. Okay. My advice would be then I'm going to tell her to log out and log back in. That's tech. Log out and log back in. And then we'll see if we can get Maggie. CJ Ham would be a stud running back. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess every once in a while, they used to do that where every once in a while they would surprise people with CJ Ham. They just don't do that anymore. It's been a couple of years since they gave the surprise CJ Ham run. Bob says, should we bring in Kendricks? I assume you mean Eric Kendricks, still a free agent. I don't know if he is going to continue to play or not, or if someone will pick him up. But as of right now, the one role that I would have thought might have worked for him is what Eric Wilson has now. And that would be that I'm going to call Wilson LB3, but there might be somewhat of a rotation there with Eric Wilson and Ivan Pace Jr. Wilson was a good cover linebacker, but wasn't the best when it came to the run because he's undersized. He's actually kind of only a little bit bigger than Josh Metellus, but they're not that different in size. Okay, now I see Maggie. Now we go. There we go. Okay, now we got you.
Oh
Okay.
my God. Had to
All
build
right.
up the tension for you guys. I'm
Well,
here.
we had to get some fullback conversation in just before. So Mondays with Maggie Robinson, currently at Syracuse University in grad school, previously a producer for the National Football League. So it is great to see you. What is this time, by the way, behind the scenes in the NFL? What is this time of year like? It's got to be chaos, right?
So this time is really funny because I was there for 2 years, and the first year I was there, this time was like, "Oh, let's get all our vacations in." And then the second year they implemented the flag championships like 3 days ago. And so right when everyone was about to have their family vacations, they're like, "Actually, we're going to ship you off to Canton, Ohio in the middle of July, and now you have to work another tentpole event, and then we're going to go straight into the season." So this is a super hectic time. I have a photo of my desk around this time because I was coordinating all of our pretty much TV operations. So the amount of stuff that I was shipping out, mailing, sending people, like organizing gear, getting our green hats, our game reps, everyone organized. I remember those were long hours, but so cool to do it, you know?
Well, I'm glad that, and I've seen some opinions on this, but I'm glad that they're investing a lot in the flag football because, I mean, the reality is that how many kids really have a chance to play in the NFL? The
Yeah.
answer is not too many. But how many people could enjoy being part of a flag football team? I mean, for me, just for example, growing up, we didn't really have a football team as a high school. It was just too
Mhm.
small of a school. The team was bad. Most of the players had to play both sides of the ball. That's how few. I mean, you're running out like a 22 person football team.
Yeah.
So it was not a great situation. If we played any school larger than us, we just lost by 47 points. It was bad. If that had been a flag football team, it would have been way more fun. The reason I stopped playing football after my 8th grade year is just because I thought I'm gonna die out here. Like they got these, kids from these other schools that are beating us by so much. I can't do this. But flag football, I could throw the ball, I could catch it a little bit. There's a lot of people who don't really want to mash their bodies to death in high school who might have fun with that. So anyway, I saw
Yeah.
that the other day. I saw some people be like, "Who cares?" or whatever. Like, look, it's not about whether you're liking it. It's about people who see it as maybe an opportunity to enjoy this game. So
Totally. I remember
anyway,
working last summer and I just saw one of the highlights, I think from yesterday. Some kid made an insane behind the back twisting catch, like stuck it in his glove, don't know how he landed it. And the thing that shocked me when I was there, and this sounds like NFL propaganda, I swear to you it's not, it's simply my opinion. They're insane athletes. For high school kids, they're doing some crazy things, and then I looked at the roster, at least for the girls' side, a lot of them are going on to play college soccer, college lacrosse, like, you have really high caliber athletes who are also getting to do this fun thing, and I also think from the girls' side, like, what a great avenue to have another now it's like a high school sanctioned sport. I think they're trying to get it in all states, so I don't know. I'm a huge fan of it, but someone in the comments brought this up. The flag guys don't seem to enjoy the NFL guys coming in. You saw the quarterback like chopping it up to Patrick Mahomes saying, "Oh yeah, I can dish it out better than you. Like, don't come for my spot." That I listen. I know it's a different game. It's hard to compare yourself to Patrick Mahomes when you're a professional flag football player. Just a little bit laughable, but who knows?
I appreciate the confidence.
I do.
And it is it's a different sport, but I'm sure if you saw NFL quarterbacks run 7-on-7 versus flag football quarterbacks, you'd be like, "Oh,
Right.
Sam Darnold running a 7-on-7 is insane." Like with the amount of arm talent, arm strength that the anticipation, all that sort of stuff. But it is a different game. It's played differently. I didn't need the NFL players involved in it, honestly. I thought it was fine
Mhm.
if you want to have it as an Olympic sport. There's a lot of things, table tennis is an Olympic sport. Might as well have flag football. I just thought, okay, it's fine if a couple of NFL players do this, but I didn't need that. I agree with you though, as far as the like getting the women's teams involved in and the girls teams in high school is a phenomenal way for everybody to be involved in the game. So, anywho, what do you want to talk about? There's a lot going on out there as some camps are getting going. Vikings
Yeah.
camp, we're going to get our first practice on Wednesday. So, what is on your mind, Maggie, for Mondays with Maggie?
First off on my mind is this is a big day for you. This is like first day of school for you tomorrow. What are how are you feeling? Are you prepared? What's going through your mind? How are you feeling this season? Like where's Matthew at, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good question because a lot of times going into training camp, I mean, you guys know, like I do this all the time. I do these shows in the middle of June and I could take a week off if I want, but we were on vacation the other day and I did another podcast from my hotel room. Like I want to talk ball all the time. So I'm never too worried about that. The hours of training camp can be a bit on the longer side for me.
Mm,
So, just for example, get out there around noon, we got press conferences, then a practice, then post practice press conferences, and then sometimes a podcast with another reporter. Getting my notes together and everything else. Then we do the live shows every night. By the way, every night, guys, live shows after practices. So I will be here and trying like I did today, bringing some new elements hopefully to the show, some sound, some video, things like that. But it's a lot. So it does have that back to school type of feel. And there have been years before where I called them the pre-camp scaries. And if you talk to reporters around the league, we just know how much is about to happen. All
Yeah.
the things that we've discussed for so long and all the different stuff and you just never know. I have been surprised all the time, in training camps of guys that emerge, injuries that happen, storylines that, the craziest one ever would be the quarterback and the head coach beefing over vaccination status was something I did not see coming when I arrived in 2021 for training camp that year. And that was very stressful on everybody. Things like that gives you the camp scaries of like, I don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But this year, there is a little bit of a different feeling for me where I kind of can't wait. I don't have that like, summer's over. My golf game was just getting going and now I'm not going to be able to get on the course as much. It really is like this is the thing. And you go back a few years, Maggie. I mean, I've been doing this for long enough to where in 2019, 2020, 2021, we talked so much about the rookie quarterback, moving on from Cousins, building the team, stacking it up. You've heard me talk about it a lot on the show recently as we get here. But imagine talking about something for 5 years and then it's finally here. Like, imagine that you had spent the last 5 years saying to yourself, I just can't wait to be at Syracuse doing my grad degree, and then you finally arrive on campus. You're like, it's here. That's kind of how it is for this show,
Yeah.
because a lot of the listeners of this show, if you were a Kirk Cousins diehard and you thought he was the best quarterback ever and you thought he was underpaid, you weren't listening to me. So the listeners of this show have been on board with this idea, this strategy, and this plan for so long. So I feel like we're all doing it together. Like, guys, it's here. Let's see what happens. This was like our plan. And when they hired Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and he accidentally said to a reporter that Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, not a great quarterback,
Mm.
and you usually win the Super Bowl with great quarterbacks, it was kind of a sign like, oh, I think they get it. I think this group gets it. And that's also been such a long journey as well, to go from an old kind of washed up roster that they were squeezing the last amount out of to then rebuilding it over 3 years. And we went into these last two seasons like, what are they, is it a transition year? How good can they really be? And, could they actually be bad in 2023? And then last year, everyone thought they were going to be bad. And, it was a surprise when they weren't. But this is the first year in a long time where they've entered camp and we've said, no, they actually have really, really high expectations and a roster that can actually compete for a Super Bowl. And that was something we just couldn't say for a long time. So, short answer is I'm ready. I'm very ready for this.
Hell yeah. I'm fired up from that. Like, let's go. I'm ready.
Football.
Get me out on the field. Absolutely. So I was doing some research, and some of you might have seen this article drop. I believe it was earlier today. ESPN's Kevin Seifert, sorry, Kevin,
Seifert.
uh, Seifert, sorry, Kev, dropped an article called "Inside the Vikings Plan for JJ McCarthy's Lost Rookie Season," and he actually got some really good insider knowledge that I haven't seen. Obviously, everyone's written about JJ McCarthy. This is the most overplayed, over talked about article of JJ's injured. It's like a sophomore season, technically. What's he been doing? And you kind of get the same standard answers of like, yeah, he's been learning the game really well. He seems to be in the right headspace. Great kid. The KOC likes him. Seifert actually got inside the room, and I found this really interesting. So, quarterbacks coach Josh McCown was working very, very closely. He and KOC working very closely with JJ McCarthy to essentially give him the mental repetition as if he was in practice, even if he was just sitting on the bench watching or sitting in film sessions. So they were giving him what I can only describe as like a VR version of I hate when my camera does this. Guys, Matt, how do I fix it?
Do you have the little you did it again. If you have one of those cameras that if you go like
Shrink.
this, it will
I'm
like
sorry,
zoom in,
guys.
right? So I don't know, maybe if you go like that, do you have the app up? Like there should be an app and you should be able to zoom out. This is extremely funny. You were right in the middle of this whole thing. This is a super interesting
Yep.
story about
Am
the
I
whole thing.
zooming?
Oh, did you get it? Did you get
No,
it?
I'm just moving my
It
rolly
seems like
chair
it, but
backwards.
no,
God damn it.
no.
Okay, I'm gonna continue, and you guys are just gonna see my face this close,
Go
and
ahead.
I
Go
talk with my
ahead.
hands
You're
anyways.
you're
That's
go a large head.
this I can't take myself seriously. Okay, so the 2 coaches really working closely with JJ.
Do you want me to move closer?
Do you mind? Just tilt the camera right up here.
So both of our heads are absolutely enormous. All right, so he had the there should if you have the app open for the OBS
Mhm.
bot camera, there should be a button that you can find
Okay.
on the app that says like zoom
I'm so
out.
sorry, guys. I've had no camera troubles until the past 2 weeks.
Let me give you a second and pick up on what you were talking about. And yeah, everyone's rooting for you to get
I'm
this
just gonna do
right.
weird hand motions until it zooms out.
Until it moves. Yeah. Okay. So uh what they did last year was they really had an idea. This is getting even weirder. That like they knew that their long-term plan was going to be for JJ McCarthy to be their quarterback. So they acted like it. They did everything that they possibly could, including on I think it was Saturdays. They had shout out to the audio listeners. Yeah, I know. They I believe on Saturdays they would sit down, him and McCarthy, KOC and McCarthy, and they would have like a meeting as if he was picking the plays that he liked for
Yes.
practice. That's that holding the mic like that is going to make it worse because you're going to be moving the mic around and this is going to be this is going to be
I'm
making
sorry,
sounds.
guys.
We'll just
You're
it's
just getting me up close. You
you're
know what? We've come to terms with it. You're getting me here.
we've we've got Kevin Seifert in the chat here now just watching us melt down with your camera situation. It's fine. Giant head Maggie is totally fine, but we're gonna have to figure out what
Yeah, we
hand
are.
motions that you did to screw that up. So as Kevin Seifert is here in the chat, hi Kev.
Hello.
Continue talking about Kevin's great article.
Kevin, you did a great job because you got some really good inside info that I had not seen in any other article. And what Matthew was just describing to the audience is that JJ McCarthy was essentially getting taken through the mental reps of being in practice, asking to list all the plays that he would do in this instance or do like watch Sam Darnold's essentially like a point of view from practice. Sam Darnold had a camera on top of his head, and then that camera was shown to JJ McCarthy along with normal practice and game films. And he would just watch that and study that as if he was in Sam's head. So like I don't know how much more legit you can get other than fully being on the field, but to see that they were that behind him and that determined to make him as ready as they could. One of the pieces that Kevin mentions in here is he wanted to get all the small things taken care of in this essentially gap year so then he doesn't have to think about them this upcoming year. They're making him take quizzes on all the offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators of other teams to know like where they come from, what's their coaching style, how do they like to play. So he has all this background info that a lot of guys have to just like try to absorb while learning a new playbook, while learning a new team, new players, new coaches. And he's just gotten to do this essentially like this has been his whole job is studying and school. So I reading this was like, it feels like JJ's in grad school. He's in a 1-year grad program. He's getting all his reps in. And now he just graduated. He's on to his big boy job. Let him fly.
No, I think that's exactly right. And Rob brings it up in the comments and is correct that when I hear he's a rookie quarterback, oh, he's basically a rookie. And then you read Seifert's article and you go, no, he's not. I mean, he has so much experience already. It's not that different from any other quarterback who just sat there first year. And I think that's what it really tells you. The only difference, and this is something that I'm going to be watching closely for, is JJ McCarthy has like out of 100% football knowledge of Kevin O'Connell's offense and how to play football, just in your brain, knowledge about the game, X's and O's. Let's say he's got 90% of what you would want from your NFL starting quarterback already in his brain. And his body has 20% because he's gone through only the one camp and the mini camp, but he hasn't actually had practices. He hasn't actually played in games. There are some people who will say, though, that it's a little bit overstated. It's a little bit overrated because the actual practices in the season is where you would be emulating a the other team, the other team's quarterback. You're the scout team quarterback a lot of times. So you're not actually pretending to be Sam Darnold. You're pretending to be, Kirk Cousins when you're playing Atlanta or something. And I think that those reps are helpful. I think that they learn a lot through that. But a lot of it is when you don't play, it is the mental part of it. So he's got to have the body part catch up to the mental part. And that's where the footwork, you can know the footwork, but does that mean you actually get it right as part of the what do they call, what do athletes call that, the
Yeah.
muscle memory, right? Like getting it into the muscle memory, where I make the comparison of me with golf
Mhm.
sometimes, where because of my schedule I don't get to play a ton of golf all year round. I don't get to play seven, I don't know, 400 rounds of golf a year or something. I get to play maybe 30. And I watch enough YouTube videos where you would think I played 400 rounds just based, so I can watch the
Mhm.
swings and I can think about the swings. I could VR the swings, but that's not getting it
Right.
into my body. So how long is it going to take in order for him to get the muscle memory down? But as far as knowledge goes, he is vastly more
Mhm.
knowledgeable than any rookie quarterback
Yeah.
coming into the league. Let me answer a quick question first and you can carry on. Um, Sean says, as a reporter in practice, what are the rules around recording and taking pictures? Are your phones taken away? You got it. Hey, there you go. You got it. Good for you. We're back to normal. The phone's taken away. Wonder why there's no video live streams, only radio at camp. So the every team has different rules when it comes to videoing. What our rules are is that we can videotape the warm up portion. So you'll see videos of JJ McCarthy warming up, but not the actual plays, which makes a lot of sense that Kevin O'Connell would not want his plays that he's practicing to try to win football games posted on Twitter or on this live stream or whatever else. And a couple of years ago, they tried to ask some of the fans to stop taking an incredibly good all 22 view of Kevin O'Connell's plays, and the fans did not. So you're going to see some of those show up from the stands, from fans who have shown up. Some of them have platforms that they've built of their own, and they use that to kind of get ahead or of more online engagement, which I've always thought was kind of funny, because if they're actually fans of the team showing up, then you're kind of not helping your team that you root for by videoing from the stands. But that's somebody else's problem to deal with. That's the point. So us reporters, we kind of have those rules. They're fair. They're different from Mike Zimmer, though. Mike Zimmer didn't care, because I think he thought that we had a sideline angle, and it's not exactly like we were going to be able to get the whole play. Whatever. Everybody has different rules, though, and that's kind of how ours work. So there's that. We're not banned. They don't take the phones
Phone
and
ban.
hide them away. I visited Paisley Park, by the way. Do you know what Paisley Park
No,
is?
I've never heard of that.
Okay, Paisley Park is Prince.
I
You know
do.
Prince, yes? Okay. Just we got to go slow here on the show sometimes. So Prince built this studio in Minnesota. Prince is
Okay.
from Minnesota, and he built this incredible studio where thousands and thousands of songs and hundreds of artists have come. He recorded a lot of his own music there, and it's incredible. And it's now a museum after he passed away, obviously. And there's so much cool stuff there. But they actually make you put your phone in a pouch and lock it, and they don't unlock it until the end of the tour. So you go through the tour and you're looking at Prince's house, and you're going in the studio where he wrote all these great songs. His guitars are there, the motorcycle. This goes too far back, I'm sure, but like the motorcycle from Purple Rain. Maybe you've seen the shirts. No way you've seen the
No.
movie Purple Rain, but that's Prince's movie. And so, you go through there and they lock up your phone. So that's what I was envisioning, is like every day we have to put them in some sort of vault or whatever. That doesn't happen. No, we get to keep our phones, but there's just like an understanding of once the plays start, the PR will say, all right, that's it for filming, and that's what we do.
A good recap. That's what we had to do in high school, essentially. It was like you put your phone in a bag and you lock it away.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Wow.
Schools are getting, like, really weird about that now. Like, no phones. Anyways, we're back to the NFL.
Um,
Training camp has started for 2
okay.
teams. Training camp starts for you guys tomorrow. This is a big, big week. The Hall of Fame game, let me remind you, is in 10 days on July 31st between Detroit and the LA Chargers. That's big time. Yes, it's the Hall of Fame game. Yes, it's a joke, but it's also football. We haven't actually seen real football in a minute. So this is exciting for the squad. The Chargers and the Lions have some updates that they did over training camp. So the Chargers just signed their 7th running back. This is a deep position now with, and I apologize if I pronounced his name wrong, Nyheim Hines, who was formerly on the Colts and the Bills. But the catch here is that he hasn't played since the 2022 season because he was silly and blew out his knee on a jet ski accident and missed 2 years of NFL football. So
I did not know that that's how he got hurt. I knew that he got hurt. He was kind of effective for the Bills.
yeah, he
I
was
tend to
decent.
remember him
241
catching
receiving
passes
yards,
and
30
stuff.
catches, 2
Yeah.
touchdowns. He really struggled.
I think he had a kick return, maybe kick return for a touchdown. Yeah, I mean that's I had no idea. That goes under the Hall of Fame of
Right?
bizarre injuries for NFL players. Ben Roethlisberger, speaking of motorcycles, was in a motorcycle accident once upon a time and had to miss some time. But Nyheim Hines coming back to the league is sort of proof that what someone else said earlier about how, hey, like, don't be too worried about Ty Chandler as RB3. We're talking about RB3 here. It's like if a team is signed Nyheim Hines after 2 years of being away after a jet ski accident, kind of tells you where the depth of that position might be a little bit short. And as we talk about, well, could they get somebody else? Probably not a lot of guys to get, but hey, that's a good point by Aaron that maybe they should sign one of the guys that the Chargers
True.
cut. Hey, who knows how many running backs that team could keep? They signed. Well, they've also got the
Najee
Najee
Harris is
Harris
on
thing, which is
IR.
weird.
They got Omarion Hampton in the draft this year. And then they got a few kind of random guys who I hadn't really heard much about, but it's 7 deep in there. Like that is, can you imagine a practice? You get what, like 1 rep every like 7-10 minutes and you're just standing around?
Well, it's probably Omarion Hampton gets all the reps and everyone else stands around is usually how that works. But yeah, the Najee Harris thing where he got hurt in an accident with fireworks on July 4th. Second, that was another one. JPP, Jason
Mhm.
Pierre-Paul blew off the fingers. And
Ridiculous.
so then Harris getting an eye
Like,
injury. Yeah, I mean, I guess they're glad that they drafted
we
Omarion
pay you
Hampton
guys
now.
so much and you can't keep it together in the off season. This is like when you're playing youth sports and the doctor's like, you have to sign this waiver that you're never ever going to get a trampoline or let your kid go to a trampoline park because they're going to break every bone in their body. We should have that, but like in the NFL contracts of like, you will not touch fireworks, touch a firearm, speed in a car, or oh my God. I'm just counting on my fingers
Well,
at this point and it's hating
just
me.
do this. I think you got to do this. Is that
Here we go.
there you go. So
I'm
we got it.
seriously so sorry, you guys.
Oh, and it
I'm
did it again.
trying.
There is a
There
setting
is.
on this thing to turn
Your
off
girl
the
is
hand
trying her
motions. I
best.
know there is. And I also know that maybe it was brought up
That I would
last
fix it, and then
week.
I did not. So this is user error. Blame me. I can't complain.
Yeah, the Chargers are a team, though. They're playing the Vikings this year that I'm fascinated by because I do think there's a legitimate chance when you look at their season last year and their defense was at the top of the league and they are fantastic running the football, using play action off of that, all the things Jim Harbaugh has done. There might actually be a chance that they win that division. I feel like it's kind of crazy to go there with Kansas City still in the division to ever say that anybody else could beat them. But that team is pretty stacked, and they went and got Trey Harris in the draft. I thought that they still should have added a little more in terms of wide receivers, but maybe there's a chance that Quentin Johnston takes another step. They did get Mike Williams, and then he retired. So it has been a bit of a rough start here for the Chargers to their 3 days of training camp or whatever, having to put Najee Harris on IR and then having a player retire. But the point just being like that's a very strong roster all of the
Mhm.
sudden with Jim Harbaugh, and the Vikings have to play them on a short week.
Mm.
I think they play what? Who do they play right before them? They play somebody hard before them. Is it Detroit? They play someone hard before them, and then it's Thursday night football. Oh, the
Oh,
Eagles.
man.
They play the Eagles. Yeah, and then go right out to play the Chargers. That's
That's
kind of one of
brutal.
those like the season will be
Yeah.
defined in those couple of weeks. So I do have my eyes on the Chargers during this training
You
camp.
mentioned some of the guys who retired. Guess who else retired from the Chargers? Finally, Philip Rivers. It took him a while. Took him 4 seasons of not playing, 5 seasons almost, to finally realize that it's probably time to pack it up. His time is done. But if you guys have not seen his retirement announcement that the Chargers posted on their social media, highly recommend. They surprised him. They had him sign a one-day contract because he ended his career with 1 year at the Colts, I believe. And then all 16 others were with the Chargers, and they were amazing. I mean, obviously, he had a very storied career, well-loved guy. LA was his place, San Diego, I guess, until they moved. But they signed him to a one-day contract to let him retire as a Charger, and it's just the most heartfelt. This guy didn't take a day for granted in his career. He gets teared up. You can tell he just loves the game and loves the guys he's around. I don't know. I just found it very heartwarming to be like, oh, he's going out the right way.
I did wonder what took so long. Maybe it was still in there that maybe there'll be a team that gets their quarterback hurt in the playoffs and they'll call me or something. There was, I think, San Francisco when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. There was a report that they called Big Ben to see if he wanted to come back and play. So this does happen. I'm sure when Kirk Cousins got hurt for the Vikings in 23, there was at least a text exchange with Tom Brady
I'm
just to
sure.
check, just to check.
Like,
Are you
"Hey."
sure that you're fully retired? You might want to. So maybe Rivers was still waiting for that. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks of the era because there's something there's something fun about a guy who plays with so much
Yes.
joy for the game, but is also so talented and so in command. And it was his franchise, and he was the guy. And I always felt like he just would do whatever it
Mhm.
takes. Like I think he played with an ACL torn in a playoff game that I'm still going to play anyway. And when he played the Vikings, this is an interesting thing to witness because when he played the Vikings in 2019, he was washed.
Yeah.
He was done with, and the Chargers were falling apart and they weren't that good. And at the end of the game, they were losing. And Rivers just started chucking the ball deep on like every play and getting it picked off. It was just like he must have thrown, I think,
No
3 or 4 picks in
way.
the game. And all launching it down the field. You're right. But I loved it because he wasn't worried about his career
Yes.
stats, his quarterback rating. He was like, if I hit one of these and we score a touchdown, maybe we've got a chance. So I'm going to give it a shot. And then I've told the story before on the show, but uh, with Philip Rivers after that game, they were playing in a soccer
Mhm.
stadium, and the Vikings fans had entirely taken over
Mhm.
that stadium. And the only Chargers there were Phil Rivers' kids. Like that was it. So it was all Vikings fans in that stadium. And you had to walk a long way to get to the Vikings locker room because it was a soccer stadium. So the locker room was just
Mhm.
in a different area. That was before they built the mega stadium. And Rivers came all the way over to give a jersey to the Vikings rookie center at the time, who had gone to the same college as him many, many years later. And he like signed a jersey for him, brought it all the way over. And I just happened to be standing outside of the Vikings locker room. And I was the only one out there. I don't know. I was like sending a tweet or something. And Rivers was standing there near me. And he had to stand there for a while. Like he had to wait quite a long time. He asked somebody to go in and get Garrett Bradbury, and he waited. And then, like I saw the exchange, it was just so classy, so nice for a rookie center who just happened to go to his college. Like
Yeah.
little things like that, I think say a lot about Philip Rivers as a
Mhm.
leader. And so I think when there's a guy who is flawed and came so close, but also just forges that bond with a fan base and so many other players and is so beloved, it's just a really cool thing. And sometimes perfection can be boring in sports,
Yeah.
right? Oh, well, Brady won all the time. Okay, well,
Brady was also kind of
yeah,
a
that's
bot.
boring.
Like
Yeah, right. No, he was. Yeah, right. Like he wasn't that interesting and he wasn't flawed and he wasn't, so I always liked Philip Rivers for
yeah,
those
like the
things.
people's quarterback. Like, "Oh, I can see myself in you despite the fact that you're an outstanding professional athlete." But also, we can relate on some levels. And I'm seeing all these comments, and I do have to ask you, how many kids does this man have?
I think it's like
Oh
10.
my god.
I'm not joking. I think it's like 10.
Wow, he hit double di okay. Congratulations.
I mean, he could pay for him.
On that
He
salary?
can afford him.
My gosh.
Yeah, that's funny that if it was just his kids half the stadium. Yes, it was the Afadi Adenabo scoop and score game. That's right. But yeah, everything I've ever heard about Philip Rivers is awesome. I will say though, how do we feel about the 1 day retirement thing?
I
Like 1 day contract.
I would feel if I was him a little insulted, and I say that in the way of like, "Man, you couldn't have just kept me on as like a backup and like we could have like worked this out for my final year." Like there wasn't any way. And then he even had, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but like the team owner of the Chargers is escaping me right now. FaceTimed him on the video, talks about how impactful he's been. This is gonna sound out of pocket. It's like when you have the Make-A-Wish kid and you sign him to like a one game.
Oh, wow. Wow. You really
That's
went
just
there.
where my brain was going.
Yes, I do.
Don't take
I
that out of
do know that.
context. You know what I'm trying to say.
Is it a little bit like, "Hey, sorry for letting you go there at the
Mhm.
end. Here's your 1 day contract." I think there's just a little bit for me of, is it kinda
Yeah.
corny, or is it just a way to have
I was
positive
about to
PR for the
say, it almost
day,
feels like
or
their PR team was
yeah.
like, "Oh, we can make ourselves look really good going into this season," and that's by sending him off well and almost making him feel more respected than maybe he did when he left, and we can just, like, wash all over that and cover that up. That didn't happen.
Maybe we're being a little on the cynical side for
Maybe.
that. I think for fans of Philip Rivers, a chance to celebrate him for one more day and have everybody say their really nice things is nice. But for this one, it feels a little bit distant from Philip Rivers. It wasn't like he retired from the Colts last
Right.
year and then they did a 1 day retirement. It was a long time ago, and then they did it. What was it? 2020, I think was his
Yeah,
last. Yeah, it
2020. So
was
this
2020
man
when he
was
played for the Colts.
mid-pandemic, pre-pandemic. That
Right. What's
please.
been going on? Like, did he really think he was going to keep
Do you
playing?
see
I don't
that? I
know.
mean, he looks like he's just a normal dude now too. Like he looks like he's been enjoying his life. So I don't think he was gonna pull a Joe Flacco at any point, but I guess he was waiting it out to see if maybe.
It could be, but a great quarterback, and whatever he gets in terms of good things, he
Yeah,
deserves.
absolutely. Okay, we mentioned the Hall of Fame game. The other team, obviously the Chargers are playing Detroit. Alex Anzalone, linebacker, has been out with a hamstring injury, and there's a lot of speculation as to like, oh my gosh, is he sitting out? Why is he not coming to practice? No, the guy's fine. Like he just crushed his fitness test a few days earlier. He has a hamstring injury. He's sitting out a little bit of practice. Dan Campbell said there's nothing really to worry about, but a lot of people got freaked out that they didn't see him on the field. People love to jump to conclusions, especially in training camp.
They do. The only thing is for the Lions, so they just had Levi Onwuzurike. I always mispronounce his name. I'm sorry for that. That he tore his ACL, and apparently he had been dealing with an injury with the knee, and then it just got to be too much, and they had to do surgery on the ACL. And then to have Anzalone be hurt with the ACL, I'm sure for Lions fans, it's like, is this going to be a
Yeah.
thing again? And I guess you do have to wonder a little bit about some of their practice and some of the like how much they've put on these guys. Because if you watch that Hard Knocks from a few years ago, Dan Campbell's being man Campbell, and we're going to be tough and we're going to bite kneecap. And he's doing that. Like, but they were having really hard
Yeah.
practices. And at the same time, Kevin O'Connell, by some folks, is he soft?
Mm.
He's running these soft practices. But the injury reports don't lie when it comes to some of this stuff. And you just wonder about that, but also the number of games that some of these guys have played over the last few years. When you go to the playoffs every year, guys get more on their body. And Anzalone is such a big player
Mhm.
for them that if he is in and out of the lineup again, that really impacts their defense. So I think that, I mean, a little bit of freak out is probably right when they had so many injury issues last year. That is it happening again?
Yeah. I mean, a few weeks ago, you asked me where I ranked the Lions in the NFC North, and I had a pretty low. I think I had them what? Was it bottom of the NFC North? It wasn't top. I know that for sure. And I'm just saying, with all the short turnaround and the grind that Dan Campbell has put them through, I would not be shocked if, like you're saying, injuries start to pop up, overuse, wear and tear. It's taxing. No one's saying that being an NFL player is easy, but I do think taking the KOC route of understanding that you cannot run people into the ground in June and July and then expect them to play for 18 weeks of a season. It's just not feasible. We always called this in the office. You were asking, like, what's it feel like in the off season? It feels like you're about to sprint the marathon. You can't sprint the marathon for an extra 2 months when you're already going that far, you know? You really have to be mindful, and I think it's called periodization. That's what all my sports coaches would always call it, of do the right things, lift the weights, do the reps, run the routes, but at the right time so that you're not burning yourself out midway through, 4 weeks in, like 2 months in, you know?
And that may be some of it with the Lions, or it might have been, just bad luck last year. I don't know. That can happen as well. Somebody falls on your leg.
Right.
It's not, oh, they shouldn't have played him in preseason or whatever. But I do think that oh, am
Oh,
I having
no.
some synced up issues? Oh, hold on. Let me
It's just me, guys.
now you're gone and we'll put you back. Okay. Now let me know. Thank you, Mark, for bringing that up. If the voice got out of sync a little bit last week, and none of you guys told me for like an hour. So let me know if we're back on point there. Let's see. Sloth brings up Aleem McNeil banged up as well. So that's just I think that's a major concern for the Detroit Lions is have they put too much on those guys, and even some of the offensive linemen that they're running out have had injury issues, and now they don't have the depth on the offensive line that they could have argued before, and they don't have Frank Ragnow who's going to play
Yep.
through every injury under the sun like he seemed to last year. What did he tear his pec or something and play through it? It was just crazy. So that team, it does it, they are the team that you have circled for, like, this could be the
Yep.
calamity team. Like, this could be the everything just sort of comes apart. They collapse under the pressure, and then it goes from there. Still not synced up, huh? Okay. Okay. Go ahead with your next thing, and
Okay.
I'll see what I got.
Well, going over to the Packers in Green Bay, they just signed right tackle Zach Tom to a record-setting extension. It's a 4-year, $88 million contract extension, which is the highest signing bonus in NFL history for an offensive lineman at $30.2 million. That's a lot of money. This man is getting his bag, and I think we're just seeing in the past few years, like, everyone's signing the next biggest extension, the next biggest deal. NFL agents are really going after this, like, this headline, if you will, of I got my guy this big thing. Look at this shiny award he got. He's making this much money.
I'm sorry. I was logged out for a second there.
We're
Who
talking
are we
about
talking
Zach
about?
Tom to the Packers, signing that
Oh, Zach
record-setting
Tom. Zach
extension.
Tom. Yeah, it's actually funny because you're right that and tell me, guys, if we're good here or if I need to do one more thing. I've got another idea. But with Zach Tom, I think it's a very reasonable extension for somebody who is pretty good, who ranked really high by PFF last year. But the numbers that get put out there that, oh, this is what his contract numbers are just directly from the agents who want to maximize the highest number. And I think it was Andrew Brandt who said that an agent once asked him, hey, can I just say that the contract was this many million dollars? And he worked for the
Oh,
oh, it's
no.
worse.
Is
Okay,
it for
this is
me too,
just
guys, or is it
unfortunate.
just for Matthew?
I think it was just for me
Okay.
last week. Let me log
Okay.
out real quick and
Okay,
then
we
I'll
can
log
talk
back in.
Dallas, though.
Okay.
Excuse me, because this is actually quite funny in my opinion. Dak Prescott is out here catching strays from Jerry Jones, who looks a million years old up on that press conference dais. So Jerry was obviously in this PR meeting with the media, answering some questions. I don't really think he should be up there giving his opinion because he's not as media trained, perhaps, as he should be. So he was saying about Dak, like, just because we signed the guy doesn't mean we'll keep him. And then went on all these rants of like, oh yeah, he got injured and like that was his fault. And said he missed 6 games. It was actually really 4. And he was just throwing Dak under the bus left and right in this press conference up there next to Shoddy. And I think it was TJ or JJ Watt, one of the Watt brothers, retweeted this and said, like, nothing better than getting absolutely dragged by your owner while you were doing everything in your power to work for the guy. Dak subsequently retweeted that. So just some fun beef before we actually get into training camp. They're not there yet, I don't believe.
It's gotten a little bit weird with Jerry Jones recently. It's sort of like everybody has been there at some point where you have a relative that probably shouldn't drive anymore. And, they might end up just sort of not remembering where they are and they take a wrong turn and they end up 50 miles away from home thinking that they were going to the grocery store. At one time, actually, when I was working at a grocery store years ago, I walked outside to go get some carts and my car had been hit by another car. I was
No.
like, I'm parked. What the heck happened? And it was, an elderly lady who mistaked one pedal for the other and slammed into my car. Oh, we're back. We're synced. Okay, great.
Yes.
Um, and that's kind of how Jerry Jones, I think, has run the. Okay, good. So next time, guys, remember this. Just tell me, and I'll log out and log back in, and we'll be good. I think that Jerry Jones has gotten to the point where they need to take the keys away because back in the day, many years ago, Jerry Jones would play these games with players, and famously, he was holding out on paying Emmitt Smith, and they started a season and they couldn't run the ball and they lost a couple games. Then they had to pay Emmitt Smith a ton of money. He's been playing this game for a really long time, but he's always had this kind of cockamamie theory that if he plays these games with the contracts and he stretches it out, that they're going to be in the headlines all the time. So they're going to be in the headlines all the time. And that's what he wants. Like he wants the Dallas Cowboys being talked about and in the headlines because, again, once upon a time, this would have mattered that
Mhm.
getting the Cowboys to be popular and getting them to be, getting attention and TV time and reporting, that would have been really big for them because the NFL was not where it was. And when Jerry Jones took over the Dallas Cowboys, they were a wreck. They were like the worst franchise in the entire NFL. They were like that bad of a franchise when he took it over and he made them into this behemoth, I think the most watched team
Yeah,
in the entire
they
NFL.
are.
And that used to be something that he used to do. And it doesn't work anymore or make any difference anymore. Like the Cowboys are going to be in the conversation regardless of what you do. And all that he's done by dragging out these contract things is make it so much worse. Like
Yes.
he is the one that is the reason that they had to pay Dak Prescott the biggest contract in the
Right.
NFL. It was his fault that
Yeah.
they ended up doing that.
I think it's ridiculous. I just looked up his age too. The guy's 82. At what point do we say maybe leadership at the highest level is not for you? You've had a great run. I'm sure at one point in your career were a very good businessman. That is no longer. Let's pack it up. Have your 16 kids come in and run the organization as they already are. Disperse the love a little bit, maybe like pull in some other family members. We know it's a nepotism business, but I don't know. I think at some point, like, who's going to be the person to tell him to step down, though? Does someone else have that kind of influence? And who is that?
I don't think that it's ever going to happen. I don't think that he will ever step down. I mean, until if he has, health issues, I think would
Sure.
probably be the time that he does it because he's just been in charge of this franchise for so long. And I just can't even imagine the reporters of covering the Dallas Cowboys where every game the owner will come out and talk to the reporters and just say whatever. And if you're the coach, if you're the general manager, or even his son, the president of the
I
team or
think so.
something. But
His
if
daughter's
you're
high up in there. Yeah.
right, if you're a decision maker on the team who is not one of his kids, you just got to be like, what are we doing here?
Right.
We are just a circus now at this point.
Yes.
And the thing that I think has happened to the Cowboys, this has been a pet theory of mine
Okay.
about the Cowboys because they've had rosters that could win the Super Bowl.
Totally.
I think, and this came to me when they were playing the Packers 2 years ago, and the Packers just dismantled them. Aaron Jones was unbelievable in that game, and Jordan Love was great. And by the first drive, Dak Prescott was yelling at his receiver, or his receiver was yelling at him. And I just think that pressure starts with Jerry Jones. They have the huge
Mm,
fan base, but it starts with him. He puts them in the negative spotlight all the time,
yes.
nonstop. And eventually that pressure just breaks them.
Yeah.
whether it's Tony Romo dropping a snap that, he could have won the game, or late interceptions or whatever. I think it just gets to them after an entire season of nonsense with him. And it's happened with the Vikings before, where they've had very dramatic seasons. They've gotten into the playoff race and the pressure just wears everybody down. I don't know that Jerry knows any other way to do it, but this is
No.
the guy somebody brought up. I mean, this is the guy, so he hasn't changed, that kind of ran Jimmy Johnson out of town after Jimmy won 2 Super Bowls with him. So,
Wait, what happened there?
I don't, gosh, there's going to be a documentary about it, I think on Netflix.
Okay.
I'd have to think about, there's been other like chronicling of it. I'd have to think about
Yeah.
the details of it, but it was basically like a clash of egos between Jimmy Johnson
Mm.
and Jerry Jones, and Jimmy Johnson had won the 2 Super Bowls, and then they just got rid of Jimmy Johnson.
Just
And like they didn't even make it right between them for like many, many, many years after that. And then it was Barry Switzer who came in and won the next Super Bowl with the same roster, and
mm,
not Jimmy Johnson, who could have won another one. So,
right.
the point just being like, this has always been a Jerry Jones thing. And
Yeah.
it's like the biggest person in Dallas always has to be him, and then everybody else gets to be second place. And he's always been kind of cheap too, which is weird because
That's the
over
weird
what?
part. Why
Yeah.
is he so tight-fisted? This man has millions, and this is his whole brand, is to bring in the good players and to pay them what they're worth, so they actually say, so that your team continues to be good. That one's always blown my mind of like, what you have the most. Why are you doing the least? That's so
Yeah.
counterintuitive.
And you guys are right. Jimmy wanted to run the team his way, and Jerry Jones was
Mm,
unhappy that Jimmy got all the credit. And yeah, even though Jimmy Johnson was the one that made the best trade, unfortunately, the Vikings were on the wrong side of it. The best trade of all time. This may be another Vikings history lesson you need to know, I'm guessing.
okay. I'll buckle up, I'm here.
Oh, no. Just before the season, we're talking about the most hype and happiness. Well, once upon a time, there was a lot of hype for the Minnesota Vikings because they traded for a running back named Herschel Walker,
Mm.
who at the time was a great running back for Dallas. He was a kick returner, did a lot of stuff, caught passes, was a legend in college, like an all time great college player. And the Cowboys were not that great of a team. So Jimmy Johnson decided that he could replace a running back if he could convince another team to give him a bunch of draft capital. So the Minnesota Vikings felt like they were a running game away from being a Super Bowl contending team. So the Vikings decided to trade for Herschel Walker, this running back who ultimately ended up not even playing very well for the Vikings, was kind of a replaceable player. And the Cowboys got all these draft picks that resulted in Pro Bowlers, Hall of
Oh my
Famers,
gosh.
All Pros, and built the foundation of the dynasty Dallas Cowboys off
Wow.
of this trade. So
Wow.
it is known as the worst trade of all time, but Deshaun Watson may have helped that.
I mean, that one's hard to top. Yeah. Yeah, they messed that one up. Talking about people and owners and coaches who are tight-fisted, the last team I wanna mention in this, like, wraparound from the NFL, the Bengals still have not paid Shamar Stewart. He is the only first-round draft pick who is still unsigned, and apparently it's because I know I talked about this previously, but I just find this shocking. The season is almost here. Can you not come to a conclusion? I know that his agent is very, I'm sure, like sticking to his word and sticking to his guns of we need to get this language in here where it's guaranteed. But especially with everything you've seen come out with the NFLPA about guaranteed contracts, they're not going to give this rookie an insane guaranteed contract with like all these stipulations on the off chance like he goes to prison or he can't play for a year or XYZ. He's a rookie. Prove yourself. And maybe that's like the old fashioned hard nosed version of it, but prove to me that you are worth my time, energy, and money in the NFL. I know you're good in college. That's why I drafted you 17th overall, but I don't know what you look like against the guest guys. So I just am a little shocked that no compromise has been drawn here between the two teams.
Yeah, so this is a thing that's come up over the last couple of years is first rounders and now second rounders were trying to fight this fight as well to get the entire contract guaranteed even if the player is cut before the 4th year. I think that's
Yes, that's it.
that's really the battleground. And now I haven't paid the closest attention to this issue, but the one thing that stands out is who his agent is. his agent also represented Dalvin Cook a few years ago, and the Vikings negotiations with Dalvin Cook for an entire summer turned into a clown show of,
Really?
yeah, the agent
Okay.
constantly sending, including myself, text messages to all the
No.
reporters trying to get the media on his side. Some crazy quotes coming out, which I noticed today in the Bengals thing. So then I texted a Bengals writer that I know, and I was like, "Oh, I could see that you're going through the same thing that happened with us back in 2020." I think that his agent's style, call it, is a little bit too out front for a lot of people. And I think that
Yeah.
if I had to guess, they're having some issues with some of that stuff and
Mhm.
probably the communication with him as much as anything. And if the Bengals haven't done this for anybody else, then they're not going to do it for him. And I think
Right.
that's part of the issue is that
Mhm.
some other guys have gotten this. JJ McCarthy got this, the fully guarantee, but that's a
Mhm.
quarterback. I don't know if other 17th overall picks have gotten it fully guaranteed or if he is the only one. But if you're the Bengals, you're probably saying we've never had this problem before. So why don't you just take the contract? And Stewart is just making himself, I think, look worse and worse. Just
Yes.
play football, man. Just play
Right.
football.
Yeah, I think it was the team owner that came out, and it said in the article that he took a long pause, and then he said, "This is silliness," in regards to the Shamar Stewart thing, and then, I think it was either player ops or player personnel, someone on the Bengals side went into a more lengthy description of, like, yeah, I get that he's standing behind his agent, and his agent is doing all the one talk like, all the talking, but it's, alluding to the fact that at some point, like you're saying, "Get on the field. Show me what you're worth. Show me you actually wanna be here, because right now it looks like you care more about the money than playing football." And
Yeah.
that's a bad look. I'm also worried about his reputation going into his actual career. Do you want this tag along with you as a player that you bring a lot of baggage in the form of your agent? That's some BS that a lot of coaches and teams don't wanna deal with.
Yeah, and look, some of you have mentioned that the guarantees for the previous year's draft slot are some what they're offering is lower, which it's weird to me that they can have this draft slotting, but not the guarantees like as a standard part of it. And Anthony said that the Bengals are adding new verbiage, so maybe they are making it more complicated. The Bengals are also so I all I'm saying is my experience with the agent who represents this guy is
Mhm.
that he might not be the easiest to deal with
Yeah,
for the team. At the same time, like don't let me don't let it think that I don't want the player to get paid what everyone else is getting
totally.
paid.
Right.
If everyone else is getting those guarantees, then yes. And the Bengals, you talk about a historically cheap franchise. The Bengals have been a very historically cheap franchise. So they've got this going on, and they've got Trey Hendrickson still holding out when
Mm.
now Trey Hendrickson is underpaid by about $20 million when you look at what TJ
Crazy.
Watt just got. And when
Yeah.
you look at what Miles Garrett got, and he's up there with those guys in sacks. So the Bengals still kind of battling this long reputation. So I'm just pointing out that this might be a situation where the player doesn't have a whole lot of leverage
Mhm.
and he's just got to end up signing this contract. And he's setting himself way back here by not
Agreed.
doing OTA, not doing mini camp and all that stuff. But it also doesn't, yeah, it is a practice facility that's under an overpass. Yes, it is. And like from the same side, like the Bengals, you got to get this taken care of. Like your team had a pretty good offseason in signing T. Higgins and keeping Joe Burrow happy. And now you're going to play these games with these guys over the remaining money that they should probably be getting paid. So I think both sides with the Shamar Stewart thing and the Bengals are looking not great for not being able to get this worked out when everybody else has. That's probably the big takeaway here.
Yeah.
If everybody else has gone through this conversation and everyone else has worked it out, why can't you guys?
It looks like maybe the issue is you then. And again, I don't know the details. I'm not Shamar Stewart, but it is a little. I will say also, the Bengals in the terms of from the league office business perspective, also a little outdated, also a little slow to come to terms with new technology, a little stuck in their ways, if you will, and the way they do their PR and their press and they deal with the media. It's just interesting to see the way that it affects all operations of a team. in the way that like sure Jerry Jones has his rule and you see that how he rules affects all parts of his team. The Bengals from this all the way down to like the way they handle their PR staff and whatever, it's a little they have their ways about doing things and no one's going to change that until they change that, you know?
Okay, so Sean says they decided to add a clause if you are late to practice, they could void your guaranteed money. Okay, well,
Oh.
if if that's what they're trying to add to it, like late to practice,
Late to practice, make me run some laps, have me do some wind sprints, like maybe do some
right,
push-ups.
fine me $500.
Right, right. That's
I don't
kinda crazy.
I don't know.
Okay. A lot of
Weird
this was
situation.
legalese too, so I there was something about Amarius Mims, some of Son of a Beavers just brings this up. First round pick, in 2024, got his contract guarantee with no offset language to take away the guarantee if he got into trouble.
Mm,
Right, so I think that was the argument that they were trying to play off of is, "Hey, this is pretty accurate comp. What gives? Why did he get it? Why not?"
I
I don't
see.
know.
So does that mean that they think Stewart's going to get in trouble? Like, are they concerned
Is that
about
a
that?
read? And one because one of the quotes in the article that I saw literally said they're trying to get a guarantee if for whatever reason he goes to prison. They use going to prison as an example in this article, which
Oh,
feels like are we all missing something? Is there background that we don't know? I don't know. Again, I don't want to throw the poor guy under the bus if it's not like that, but
okay. Anthony says it's a morality agreement. Okay, I can understand that. It sort of reminds me of like the Kyler Murray has to watch tape thing that's in his contract.
so
Um,
again, we should put in there don't use fireworks, don't speed, don't
It
go on a
probably
jet
it
ski in the
actually
off
probably
season.
is. Yeah, in a lot of those contracts, those things are in there that they can void the contract for certain behavior. You just don't really see it very often because then becomes like a big legal battle that
Mm,
nobody really wants to have, that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
yeah, Aaron points out don't draft those players if you have those concerns. Right, if you can't sign a guy without signing something that says if you go to prison, we can void your guarantees. Yeah, maybe that's not the guy for you. I don't know. You're right.
yeah.
That's what I mean is that the entire situation just seems like it's both sides not being able to work out something that everybody else can.
Right. So it's a little confusing as to what's happening behind the scenes and maybe we don't know about.
All right. What else we got? Is that our rundown?
That's our rundown. I mean, if we want to hang out for a little bit longer, I have another one for you. So I thought it was fitting. I'm turning 25 soon to give you my reactions to the all quarter century player list from Sports Illustrated. So they brought together a bunch of writers, senior editors, and drafted this list. And I would love to go through some of the I kind of give it like a breakdown of superlatives. So in a high school yearbook type of style, this is the guy who's most likely to. Here's a guy XYZ. I have a few I'd like to break down with you. This one, you know how like my superlative when I was in high school, not to my own horn, was most likely to go to the Olympics. Did I achieve that? No, but I felt really cool at the age of 17, and that's all that matters. So this one is most likely to go to the Super Bowl, aka the guy that you'd be stupid not to include, Mr. Tom Brady. He's top of the list, and I think top of the list for every reason you can imagine. 7 Super Bowls, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 NFL MVP awards, most records for passing yards, passing touchdowns, all the things. He is the GOAT, end of story. But I had to throw him in there because, like, how do you not make a list of the past 25 years and not include Tom Brady top?
I think it would be anybody's pick as quarterback. So it's a top 25 players of the last 25 years voted on by a bunch of different writers. I do wonder if anybody said Peyton Manning as opposed to Tom Brady. It used to be a thing during some of Manning's great years where they didn't win the Super Bowl, but he put up all-time great numbers. And then before Brady was putting up huge numbers, there would kind of be some Peyton Manning people who were more on the analytics side who were like, he's putting up way bigger numbers than Tom Brady, who's kind of game managing. But then Brady had his '07 season with Randy Moss and threw for 50 touchdowns. And then we just kind of decided, you know what? This Brady guy is probably the best. And there really isn't any other quarterback you would say other than Mahomes or other than Manning, I think are the only two ones in the air of Tom Brady. But Mahomes will be when we do the, I don't know, maybe by then there will be a conversation of like the 30-year team if he makes a couple of more Super Bowls between him and Tom Brady, but nobody can get there yet.
Yeah, so I failed to mention this. This is important. They ranked the top 3 players essentially at each position or each position group. So it did go Tom Brady, first and foremost. Second team, Patrick Mahomes. Third team, Peyton Manning. Others receiving votes, as in one vote, Lamar Jackson. Don't sleep on our guy. But no, so it is exactly like you're saying. Patrick Mahomes is up there. Peyton Manning's up there. And then another thing they said in this article, terrible time to be an all-time great quarterback if you weren't actually standing on your head every single game because you're just going to get forgotten about in the history of all-time QBs.
The Super Bowl thing is difficult to deal with for my analytics brain because, reasonably speaking, we should not evaluate quarterbacks just on Super Bowls.
Yeah.
That would be insane because, like, you can, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Like, those guys aren't better than Dan Marino, right? At the same time, I think you can let it enhance if a guy has had enough performances and enough opportunities and got his team to the Super Bowl multiple times. And I say this just about, Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson. Rodgers got one. Lamar Jackson, though, if he gets a Super Bowl and then you look at the rest of his resume, oh my gosh, like he
Yeah.
belongs with those guys, but he needs to get that. He does. And with that position having so much weight for whether you win or lose every single game, I don't think it's wrong to, when we evaluate resumes, to say, well, Lamar and Patrick Mahomes, statistically speaking, expected points added speaking, or whatever, might be pretty similar. But if Mahomes has multiple Super Bowls, it's sort of like tie goes to the guy who won the stuff.
Yeah.
And I would have to say that for him. But I don't know. We agree that Lamar gets one at some point, right? Like, I think the same thing will happen with
Yeah.
Josh Allen, that both of those guys will get one.
Agreed. So you took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say Josh Allen. We were talking about this last week. Two guys who that's the last thing they got to do. They are so close because, as you're saying, stats wise, they have it. You can tell by watching them. They are phenomenal quarterbacks. They don't have that final piece. And as much as it is kind of, it doesn't make sense of it's one game. Why are we putting so much weight to it? It's also like the most important game. If you still can't get there, it says something about you, and you're supposed to be the one leading the team. And if you can't lead the team to a Super Bowl, then you must not be that great, which is so faulty, but that's how all of our brains go.
Yeah. And it's just when we're talking about like really splitting hairs here, any person would take any of these quarterbacks. We were talking about Phillip Rivers. If JJ McCarthy turns out to be Phillip Rivers, they'll be retiring his number and having a sappy,
Yep.
whole celebration of his career at some point. You would dream of that. But if you're comparing Phillip Rivers and Peyton Manning or something, you got to point out that Manning was able to win 2 Super Bowls.
Mhm. This is so random, but it's making me think, why are the Manning brothers in every commercial you have ever seen on your TV now? Because every time I look up, I swear to God, I'm like, what? Why is he in another Allstate ad? And how is he advertising a beverage? I don't get it. I feel like he's turning into the Shaq. Like, truthfully, I've seen Shaq on more Gold Bond commercials than I have seen him play basketball games. That's insane.
If I had to guess, it's because people of the age that are going to the grocery store the most are probably people who grew up watching Shaq or Peyton Manning. I would guess. Like,
Yeah.
if you're 35 and you've got a family and a house or whatever and all that stuff,
Uh-huh.
40, then you probably watched a lot of Peyton Manning. So he's a big celebrity. When I was a kid, Joe Namath was on a bunch
Mm,
of commercials, and I was like, this guy, like, I don't know, like,
okay.
what did he do? What has he done? And then your dad or uncle will be like, well, let me tell you the
Oh,
story of Joe Namath. So yeah, we all do this. They also, Anthony points out, it's true, they also are funny.
they are
The Mannings are
hilarious.
funny. Yes.
They're great. Their production company too, they know how to make fun of themselves. Omaha Productions, they got a good vibe.
So what else we got from this list?
Best couple. Best couple, but we're only gonna look at the man in the best couple, and guess who it is? But you can't guess. It's Travis Kelce. He was top of the list for tight ends, but I find this one quite interesting because Gronk is up there, and also Kittle is fast approaching in my mind. This is a tight top 3 race, and Gronk has even come out and obviously said it in jest in, like, a Gronk way of, like, "Oh, well, Travis might have more, like, broken my records, but he broke them in the postseason, like, he never actually eclipsed me in the regular season," and trying to hold on, but truthfully, in stats, Kelsey leads Gronk. I think they're different types of players, and they're both big personalities, which is arguably why they're more in the spotlight and why this is a bigger ego beef than it probably should be. But interesting to look at the George Kittle comparison because I think he's played 8 seasons. Kelsey's what, in his 11th or 12th? If Kittle stays on the track and the trajectory that he's on, I think he rises quickly to the top of this list. He's just been so prolific.
For me, the most dominant player, which is not, the resume, is Gronk.
Mm,
And it's not just because he could catch the football, but also he was an unbelievable blocker, which in my mind, tight end, that has to matter.
mhm.
Travis Kelsey is an incredible receiving tight
Yep.
end. I don't know how many years it's been since he's really blocked anybody. And look, the biggest moments, he's been there. You talk about the clutch and so forth, the 13 seconds thing against Buffalo, where he just kind of goes over to Mahomes and says, I'm going to run this route. I don't even care what the
Mhm.
play is. I'm going to run this route. And their chemistry is truly special. I would say the same with Gronk and Tom Brady. But it just, the dominating run blocking, because Gronk is so enormous of a human being that
Giant.
I think I think is way up there. And for only, we're talking about the last 25 years. Most of these guys have shifted toward being receiving tight ends. It's
Mhm.
that way for TJ Hawkinson, and that's what makes Kittle stand out to me as someone where I agree with you that he probably doesn't quite get enough credit because they have a lot of playmakers, but he's a phenomenal blocker. Like that
Yeah.
matters a lot as well. So I would try to factor that in there.
Yeah. Excuse me. I will say, I think Kelsey's position has also been helped, I will be the first to say it, by his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Some extra PR, some extra press when she's doing world tours and it happens to be it goes a long way. We were
I
working with Fox that season. We knew we were having conversations of how many times do we show her in the box? How many times is too many times? Yes, we tracked a lot of increased viewership in women my age. It didn't hurt, and it doesn't hurt this argument because it just puts him on another stratosphere of popularity.
I don't think he would have one of the most popular podcasts in the world if he was just the
Oh,
regular
sure.
Chiefs tight end. Yeah.
My
Uh,
god.
I don't have anything against it. Some people got very upset with that was
No,
a that was a topic for a while. People got really angry.
I don't
Stop
get
showing
that.
her in the stand. Like, I don't know. Like, what are we worried about?
Yeah.
You're not gonna miss the extra point, I
We're
promise.
great.
But
I promise you, we're gonna put the camera right back down. Calm down. You're missing one like ad read. We're actually saving you.
yeah, it's kind of funny. But I mean, when we weren't talking about the all-time greatest tight ends, just on this SI list of the last 25 years. So
Yes,
like
that is
Shannon
important.
Sharp wouldn't be in there. Antonio Gates, though, I think deserves also to be in that conversation as well.
Yeah. Next on my list is best to bring home to mom, and this means best player and best character, and this is Matthew Slater. He's a special teams guy, which means he's more normal, less jockey than your average football player, more intelligent in the way of like your kickers are a little quirky and weird. Your special teams guys kind of fit into there. He was exceptional. Went to 3 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl championships, 10 Pro Bowl selections, first team All Pro twice. I mean, the guy just did it all, and his spatial awareness and the way that he had to be double teamed or double man coverage when he was on the field just threw teams off to the extreme. And as I was saying, best to bring home to mom because he won the Bart Starr Award in 2017 and just was highly respected for his leadership in the locker room, on the field, the way he interacted with everybody. All around great guy, and what a great sportsmanship attitude he had.
Anthony, I agree on Tony Gonzalez. Probably I mean, I'm thinking that the lack of his teams really getting there, which is not his fault, but when we're talking about these kind of tie breaks, Atlanta, man, they're one play away from getting to a Super Bowl, and Kansas City was close a bunch of times. Did he get the Super Bowl? I don't think he did. And maybe the blocking was thrown in there. I don't know. But you're right. Tony Gonzalez at the time when he retired, a lot of people said he might have been the best tight end of all time. As far as Matthew Slater, I love these types of players. And I think in the Hall of Fame, one issue that they have a little bit is they've put in a couple of kickers and punters, But then you're not going to maybe put in Steve Tasker, who was considered the greatest special teams player ever before Matthew Slater came around. He's not in the Hall of Fame. And he
Right.
made the Pro Bowl a million times, and he was a punt returner, but he was also the gunner and things like that. Are they going to put Matthew Slater into the Hall of Fame with all these Pro Bowls that he's got to his name, which I don't know if there's any player who's not in that has 10 Pro Bowls, but they've got a lot of kickers who are really good that might not go in. They've got a lot of punters who might not go in. And then they're making the Hall of Fame like smaller with fewer guys going in
Yeah.
each year. So I don't know. I want a special wing. I want a special area of the all-time great specialists, the all-time great long snappers. Like let's get
They
those
deserve
guys the
that.
recognition. Nobody's winning these games without a long snapper, guys. So at least maybe some recognition.
No, I'm all for that. We should write a pitch to the Hall of Fame in Canton and say, "Hello, new wing named after Matthew Coller, please. For the special teams players, give them the respect they deserve."
Named after Matthew Slater would be fine.
Matthew's Oh, that would be good. Man, I missed that. That door was wide open for me and I didn't walk through it.
Maybe you're getting to this. Was there any Vikings on this list, by the way, just out of curiosity?
Uh Not that I was seeing stand out in the top first teams of who they were listing, because it goes first team, second team, third team, receiving votes. First team, no, very few, if truly any, to be honest with you. It was a very long list. I won't lie to you. I'm not going to try to. But is there anyone that you saw on this list or that you think should have been on, or anyone in the comments? Like, obviously, you're talking about Antonio Gates. Is there someone that you're really impassioned that this man should have been on here? We're not giving him the credit he deserves. Put him on this list.
So Moss was on their first team, Randy Moss. So he was
Oh,
on there. So at least
that
there's
is my
there's that.
mistake.
That's okay. That was the one I was like, wait, Moss has to be there. Adrian Peterson made the second team,
Okay.
which I think LaDainian Tomlinson. So they've got LaDainian Tomlinson over Adrian Peterson, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
Tomlinson was a better all around running back. And I don't think that there is anybody else on the list that includes the Vikings. They really, Steve Hutchinson was a second team guard. That is
I
deserved. All right,
overlooked
I'm
Moss. That was a
just
mistake.
just scrolling through. That's okay. Maybe it was just so obvious. Maybe you thought of him as a Tennessee Titan. That was the problem.
That was the correlation in my head. He's tied for they got 3 guys up there: Larry Fitzgerald, Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, all first team wide receiver.
Those make sense. Jared Allen got second team. He's going into the Hall of Fame this year, so I should hope so that he was at least part of that. Let me see if there's anybody else. The guy that I would put in that I think is the most underrated cornerback
Mm,
that does not get in here. So Patrick Peterson, briefly a Viking, of course, most people would think of him as an Arizona Cardinal, but Patrick Peterson made third team. The guy that I would have in here, yeah, well, okay. Anthony brings up a great one. Kevin Williams, 6-time All-Pro, should have made
mm,
that. Yeah, I agree, Sloth, that Tomlinson over AP is correct. Is Antoine Winfield, not junior, Antoine Winfield Sr.,
okay.
who was the Vikings cornerback and played for the Bills as well. Harrison Smith was in other receiving votes. Harrison Smith, Tyrann Mathieu, who I am a huge fan of, got on this and not Harrison Smith. I don't know if I would have done that. I think I would have put Harrison Smith. But Antoine Winfield was a little bit before the era that we had all this data to work with. And
Mm,
he played only a couple of years where there was like numbers to show how dominant of a corner he was. And it was just at the end of his career. And his numbers were phenomenal. But if there were numbers like that for coverage, for tackling quality, things like that through his entire career, I think anyone who saw him play would have said he was one of the best. But before that, it was mostly just interceptions that people focused on, which can be a little random, or you could be a bad corner, but get interceptions because you just kind of, play all out for the picks kind of
sure.
thing, cherry pick for the picks. If you do that, okay, well, maybe you're not as good as somebody who plays a game where they never throw in your direction and you're a great tackler. So Winfield has always been, to me, one of the most underrated.
Yeah. Excuse
And
me.
again, I like nothing against Tyrann Mathieu. I think he's great, but I think Harrison Smith is a little bit more. I mean, I don't know, probably one of the underappreciated guys because he's quiet. Like he doesn't have a podcast. He doesn't
Yep.
put a lot on social media. He until recent years he was kind of a hard guy to like pin down as far as, not that he wasn't available in the locker room, but I mean just his personality. He was kind of
Yeah.
like quiet and that kind of thing. Where Matthew got known as the honey badger early in his career and is, a dynamic player. I think I would put Harrison a little ahead of him.
You should let the writers know. Absolutely. Send in your submission. Letters to the editor.
Well, at least he got another receiving vote. So at least there was one
This is
person
true.
who included his name.
This is true. This is true. That is all I have for you today. Apologies to everyone who watched this for the horrendous camera struggles, but this was really fun. Thanks for having me back.
We fought our way through the adversity and apparently my mouth not matching up with my video again, guys, if that happens, let me know right away and then I can fix it. But I appreciate that. So great stuff, Maggie. Thank you for all of your work in preparation for this show. And the next time we talk, we will have had Minnesota Vikings practices starting Wednesday,
finally.
guys, Wednesday night. So tomorrow, look for myself and Andrew Kramer breaking down the press conference from Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell. And then on Wednesday, the first practice, Dane Mizutani and I will have a recap right after that. And then I will go live and be live throughout the entire every practice, after every practice, throughout the entire time that there is training camp. So there's a lot coming, folks. Make sure you stay up to date. So thank you, Maggie. And thank you everybody for watching / listening. And we will see y'all very soon. Oh, wait. I didn't let her say football. Hold on. Go ahead.
Football.
Okay, there you go. Football.